And here we are this Saturday evening. Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Oops! You caught me in my Halloween outfit. I'll fix that in a moment. Now, I'm using Google Chrome this time, and we're going to try again, persevere, try as we might. I've starred a couple of tracks, little stars. And we are going to start off with one entitled Swells. It's a cinematic, it's meant to be dramatic, by an artist called Underbelly and Something. And dot. So we're going to play this little number, and if it doesn't work, well, we'll just cry ourselves into a fetal position and wonder what we'll do next. But hopefully it should do. So I would kindly appreciate yeah, we can hear it, or no, we can't. Let us begin to allow time for the other guests or visitors to settle in. You have about 2 minutes before we get started properly. What do you mean there's no music? God. Muted now? Yes, muted. So I don't know if it's playing through my microphone or through my speakers. Anyway, it's pretty much at the end. Quite a strange, contorted sort of track. Now we'll put on something a bit peaceful, and we'll adjust the screen, and I'll quickly adjust my avatar. Last time on playback, oh man, I didn't have my default avatar. Last time on playback, it was the white circle. Oh, I haven't really set up this Chrome thing at all. It doesn't have my default avatar on here. Oh, I'm just gonna have to use one of my goofy ones. All right, let me just quickly. Let's see, something that has a bit of wisdom. That'll have to do. Right, okay. And I suppose I better change my name. Oh, sorry about all this kerfuffle. Name. Say my name. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing wonderfully well. Question time. Do you have questions? Please write question in capital letters followed by a colon if you do. And I will try my best not to miss them like I did last time. It's so hard to, I don't know how people keep track of the comment section, which is why it might be easier if ever, it doesn't have to be in particularly like Q&A style videos, but if ever there is a question, feel free to leave it in the comments. That way I'll definitely spot it. I might not be able to answer it instantaneously, but as a make it up to you, you'll get something like this, which we will be doing tonight, a much more structured answer to a question, a simple question, which can seemingly have, well, there's always the easy answer. I'm so unprepared. I didn't even create a banner for this question. Hold on, let me just quickly create a banner, copy paste, right, add banner, right, boom, boom, boom. Right, so this is from Iridium Kush. And what is the easiest way to strip a narcissist of their power? The power. Well, the easiest way, walk away. Go no contact. That's the golden sort of thing you may hear when people talk about narcissists. Go no contact, no contact, no contact. Even not even a thought. Do not think. Do not utter their name. Do not even fart in the wind. Do not even if you've got pictures or videos or sentimental items in your home, get rid of them all. Do not have any reminders. Oh. I saw the big word question from D-Man50. Question at Billy the Goat. Are you ready for winter? No, I'm not. No, I know it's coming. I'm scared. I know it's going to be cold. I've actually turned on my central heating because last couple of streams I've been shivering. I've been so bloody, and I refuse to wear a coat. That you can hear it in my voice, like the sort of, how is everyone doing? I'm fine. Oh, just a little bit cold. And funny thing, last night I nearly had a fight because I've been getting into the habit of lighting candles, and putting tin cans over the top of the candles to try and trap the heat. And it got so hot, I guess, the air inside the tin can, that it set the actual paraffin on fire. So I had a small little bonfire on my desktop last night, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. And because I got these candles quite literally in front of me, between me and the screen, and every time I lean forward to try and read what's going on, I run the risk of setting my beard on fire. So I'm trying to be ready for winter, but I'm stocking up on food, and I topped up on the fuel in the car. I'm looking at maybe plugging in some gaps around the windows. It depends how bad it gets. From my recollection last year, it's a bit colder than it was last year. I remember having sunset walks with my kid around this time last year, and the ice didn't really appear until February. So that's why I'm thinking this time around it's going to be a bit more colder than previous years. So I'm basically just going to have to like suck it up and deal with it, I guess. Wear thicker jumpers and try and get some blubber on me, some fat, and be a bit sensible, I suppose. Like, don't leave windows open. It's a bit silly, but keep busy, keep active, so you're not so cold. But otherwise, that's about as good as I'm going to get, really, I suppose. All right. Quick. Oh, there's another question. Oh, I'm getting better at this. Question: what is the weather like there? Currently, it's been raining today. It's not too fantastico, not too nice, really. Kind of gloomy. See, something I like about winter is you get a much more crisp atmosphere, and days can be like the sky being blue. There's a clarity with it. So it could be cold but quite sunny, for instance. You're walking around with sunglasses. Haven't had many of those yet. And as far as beautiful sunsets, meh, not so much. So the weather is a bit pooey, I would say. Whether or not it's going to stay like that, who knows? I don't know. But if you're busy grinding, hustling and doing your thing, you don't really have all that much time to admire the beautiful sunsets, what have you. Which kind of sucks. I mean, I do like looking out the window at the sky, and I mean, I don't normally have any. You know how some people are like, oh, I hate winter, it sucks, pooey, bafooey, and all this. I preach each season for what they are. So generally speaking, when it comes to weather, I like what I'm not bothered with rain. People are like, oh no, it's raining. I'm like, come on, you're not gonna rust. I mean, it might be a bit cold, but I don't see the problem with rain per se, really, unless it's leaking in through my roof and flooding the house. But I mean, without the weather having bad days, you won't have good days. So when my kid is moaning about it raining, I'll say, don't worry, honey. Like once the rain passes, I'm sure the sky will open up and it'll be all nice and sunny and clear. And usually it's something like that. So just like the rise of the tides and the waters, they come and go. It's just a phase. It will be summer again. And then we have this habit in England where it's like we bitch and moan about, oh, it's bloody cold. And then when summer comes along, we're like, it's bloody hot. So we're never happy. I'm dying. It's all melodramatic. Oh, I'm dying. I don't know how I'm going to survive. Like even in the hot summers, I'm like, it ain't that bad. I mean, I got a bit of tropical blood in me, so maybe that might be helping me out. But in general, the weather is something that is beyond our control, and I'm happy for it. I know here's a slight tangent. People talk about cloud seeding or artificially manipulating the weather. I mean, we could end up talking about climate change here. I'll try not to. But the idea of controlling the weather, I mean, to me, that kind of sucks. I see that as like crossing a threshold where it's like leave it alone. Like, no, I'm not talking about chemtrails because I think that's silliness. I mean, there is actually like cloud seeding devices, apparati that you put on planes to see the clouds. So from what I understand is that if you make one area of the sky, let's say you're trying to force it to rain, it ends up messing up neighboring regions. Like they could end up experiencing a drought because you've kind of stolen the water from their skies. And this is why I'm like, just leave it alone. Damn it. Why do people want to play God so much? Okay. I'm just looking to see if there's any other question. Okay. So back to Iridium's original question. Now, where was that? Right. What is the easiest way to strip a narcissist of their power? Make me think of He-Man. You take the sword. I'm gonna mash my retro cartoons together. You take the sword of omens away from He-Man. Yeah, so I've already kind of given you the simplest answer. Basically, you walk away. You give them no attention. What is their power? Define their power. What is what kind of kryptonite do we have for them, or whatever? So fundamentally, now go back through our notes and research, like what is it narcissists have and how do they operate and all this sort of stuff. They're weak, they're cowardly, they're thieves, they're opportunists, they're undeveloped, they're stunted, they are exaggerate, they got warped sense, distorted sense of their self-perception, so the false self, etc. So the only power really that the narcissist has is the power you give them. because that's why you are their fuel, you are their supply, you are their source of energy vampires. So without you in the picture, they are in a position of starvation or the narcissistic collapse. So the only, and this is why they're dependent in that sense, because without you, they're up poop poop creek, they're up shit creek. So really, um, so you are the source of their power. Now, don't let that get to your heads. I don't want you to be like, thinking that you are omnipotent or something like that. But be that as it may, so the power that, so if the narcissist were to have any power, it is power that has been somehow given over to them. They have managed to extract the power from where the power should normally reside, or where it should be, where it should belong. They have stolen your sense of self-esteem. It is your sense of, they have taken your heart and they are presenting it to the world as if it is theirs, but it's not, because they are thieves. So they don't really have any power. It's all an illusion. So when you ask a question, how do you strip a narcissist of their power? You, without you maybe realizing it, Iridium here, you are playing into this mirage that the narcissist is presenting. They would like you to believe they are powerful. They go, this is the false mask, the false confidence on show, which is fooling most people, because they think that, I mean, look how it works on social media, where they're taking selfies and it's manufactured, fabricated to give an impression, an illusion, a stage show, a false image and appearance are very important words to a narcissist. Like, they don't care if it's fake, as long as it's convincing, as long as they can fool everyone else. I mean, fundamentally, all of this feeds into the grand lie they want to tell themselves, that they are important when in fact they are not. So this sense of power feeding into the illusion of success and greatness and importance and significance is not only to fool. I mean, we like to think, we'll say, oh, they're trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Well, yes, to some degree, but really, they're doing that to make the lie more believable to themselves. If other people believe that this is true, then they can say to themselves, ah, yes, everyone else says it's true. It must be true then. I am the best. I am the greatest. But if everyone else is not buying it, and they say, hey, this is a load of baloney, then the narcissist can't say to themselves, well, even though everyone says this is made up and nonsense, I believe I'm the greatest, I am the best. It's not going to work. They can't fool themselves well enough to go forward like that. I mean, they can compensate with a bit of arrogance and being a bit, just full of it, sort of thing, like by minimizing and dehumanizing people. Like, well, your opinion doesn't matter. There must be someone out there, but they're still reliant on, like, well, someone will believe me. So they go around as actors to convince people of their so-called power, which the emperor has no clothes on. So it's all a sham at the end. Really, there is no real power at play as such. It's the art of manipulation. So so the reason, so how is it they're able to appear as though they have power? Well, it's because, as mentioned, you're giving them that power. So you've allowed them to have access in some way. You've allowed them to cross a boundary. You've allowed them, be it unknowingly, you didn't realize maybe you were doing it, but somewhere along the line, the narcissist has infiltrated. They have managed to tap in to that that vein of energy, like a leech looking for like a vein of blood. They have tapped in and managed to get access. So the fault doesn't really lie with the narcissist here. They need to do this. This is part of their design flaw in a way. It's a requirement. If they don't do it, they die. So they're going to need to find places where they can tap in. The trouble is how, well, in some regards, we need to give them a little bit of credit because, I mean, it's part of their survival. So they're going to try and find a way. But the ways in which they manage to succeed in doing this is pretty noteworthy. You know, they can try and be upfront and say, like, give me your attention. Hey, you, listen to what I have to say. I demand to be heard. Hear my roar, or whatever. They could be, or they could be more sneaky and cunning about it. But the best way, I think, their more favored way, is that ability to dupe you, to fool you, so that you willingly hand it over, like a sucker, you know, like a pleb, like, you know, like a numbnuts or whatever. You're like, who's the fool now, kind of thing, so that if any accountability was to be taken, the narcissist can honest with being honest, be like, well, it wasn't my fault. They gave it to me. You know, I didn't have to steal it from them. They willingly gave me their attention and their subscription, their following me, their allegiance, their loyalty, their love, their whatever. All of these are types of fuel, which add to this sense of power, this feeding, giving the narcissist their energy. So primarily what the narcissist does is looking for areas they can leverage. They look for pre-existing wounds in their targets because they don't want to have to do the hard. They don't really create the wounds. The wounds were there before their arrival. What it is that the narcissist has a skill. It's like sniffing blood. I can smell the blood. Like if you got an open wound, they'll be able to hone in where that open wound is, even if they can't see it, because they can smell the blood. So they're looking for weak spots, vulnerable spots, pre-existing injuries. And when they find that area, they get in there with a crowbar and widen that opening more so. You know, they make it they infect that area and infiltrate the body's system that way and take over the immune system, as it were. So then the victim is, I don't want to say depowered from being able to protect themselves, but is unable perhaps to recognize anymore what the threat is. So if anything, what the narcissist has done, it hasn't reduced the victim's immunity. It's put a blindfold on the immune system so that it doesn't know what to go for anymore. And so the immune system still has its potency, but what happens is it can't recognize what danger is anymore. And because it can't recognize what danger is, it tends to start attacking its own body instead of the narcissist. The narcissist comes in and pretends to be the solution and says, oh, I can see that your body is malfunctioning. There is something wrong here. Let me help you with that. And they're making it worse. But because because you in your body is needing assistance to combat some kind of invader that you can't recognize, you will seek help from the narcissist and say, well, thank you for helping me. I do seem to be infected with something. I can't identify it. Please help me to identify it. And the narcissist says, gladly, I'll help you identify it. It's not me. It is your own kidneys or something like that. Or in the case of a type 1 diabetic, it might say it is your pancreas. And so the body starts to attack the pancreas and thinking that's the enemy, making itself more and more sick. And the narcissist says, oh, you really, you know, well, you're in a tough situation here. I'm on your side and, you know, I'll help you out more. And you see how it's cascading worse and worse. And the victim becomes more and more helpless and hoping that the narcissist fundamentally is their savior. So quite often let me just check the comments. Quite often, in terms of these dynamics with these relationships with narcissists, the narcissist is viewed as some kind of hero, and it's compounded further with things like how they have stolen the self-esteem of the target, of the victim, and they present it back like a mirror. So when the victim is looking at the narcissist, they don't really see the narcissist, they see themselves in the narcissist. And so if you see yourself, you must automatically, naturally, you'd think, well, this person I see before me, they think like me, they talk like me, they look like me, they have mannerisms like me, they're on the same wavelength as me. Hey, we are kindred spirits, we are soulmates, we are one and the same. They must be good for me because, yes, because who I see is me, but it is my self-esteem that has been disconnected from who I am. And that comes from the pre-existing wound, because the victim usually, their self-esteem is, abysmal, is shattered, it's ultra low. I mean, it might even have an all right self-esteem, but it has much more effect on someone who has a low self-respect and value of their esteem and so on. Because if you don't think highly, if you don't think much of yourself, then, well, straight away you'll be more willing to throw yourself under the bus, because you don't see what's the point of trying to protect myself. I'm a piece of scum that doesn't deserve any love or appreciation. I get any bad thing, anything that bad happens to me, I deserve it. So poor self-esteem is devastating. I mean, it's not just like, oh, you don't think much of yourself. I mean, this is it's important stuff that shouldn't be like taken lightly, because of the knock-on effect of what it will mean. And so you got a victim with low self-esteem. They see the narcissist who is pretending to have ultra high esteem. So the victim is looking up to this narcissist as a savior, and the victim is feeling this some kind of invasion happening into their mind and their body. I mean, cognitive dissonance literally does manifest as physical ailments. So quite often with people who are in this dynamic of toxic abusive relationships, they will get weird problems with their body. They might come up with rashes, or they bruise in random places, or they get a pain in their elbow or somewhere random, and the doctors can't really identify what would be the cause of this. So and this is because when the body doesn't recognize what is a threat or a danger anymore, then it causes havoc on a physical level to the person with this problem. In my case, as a personal anecdote here, when I was with my ex, I was vomiting like a volcano. I don't know. I mean, it was so often. Every other week, I was a regular at the A&E department at hospital. It'd be like, oh, it's you again. How you were here last week for the same thing. As soon as that relationship was over, I haven't been to the hospital once. Now, what does that say for you? I mean, and this was like an ongoing thing for years. As soon as the relationship was over, boom, I was never in hospital again. So I truly believe in cognitive dissonance. It's more than just your soul being torn apart, or your self-esteem being even more ripped apart, but it destroys your body as well. And quite often, I mean, I hear little stories from other people as well, how once they're out of these toxic relationships, not only is their mind much more clearer, but their whole physical health is so much better. So, I mean, we must know that, stress can kill you. Well, this is taking that to another level, or compounding the issue even further. Don't worry, we're not yet through with this question. It's the only question I've got. I gotta milk it for all it's worth. Iridium, this is all your fault. I'm blame shifting. Right. So, so as we mentioned, the narcissist really hasn't got any power. They've got they're opportunists, and they're coming from a lesser position. I mean, really, if you go through the literature on narcissism, you'll find that I mean, you think the victim has low self-esteem, the narcissist has even more. And you think the victim is vulnerable, well, the narcissist is also, the way they're acting is because of this vulnerability. So vulnerable people are dangerous. You know, like if you got, what's this? Bafu, I got a notification. Go away. If, you know, like we might, you know, like a scared animal in the corner of the room or whatever, you have to approach carefully because of that vulnerability. You don't know what they're going to do, really. And Jordan Peterson mentions, like, if someone is drowning and you go to rescue them, you approach with your feet first, because a drowning man will reach out for anything, and if you're not careful, you'll have two drowning men. So do not underestimate the desperation of the vulnerable. Yes, they need help, and we can have sympathy for the predicament that they're in, and etc. We can try and assist, but you must safeguard yourself when doing so. Like, let's make a scenario, and I mean no disrespect to homeless people, but let's say you saw someone homeless and you want to hand them a little bit of loose change or something, right? Very noble, great thing to do, wonderful. It's you know, they need the help, and you want to help them out, etc. That in itself isn't the problem. The problem is imagine if someone saw you pull out your wallet, they know you got cash on you, they know what pocket you put your wallet back into, and as soon as you finish that homeless person, well, now you get mugged. You know, so you need to have to be a little bit cautious. I know it's sucky in a world where you shouldn't have to be so like you could verge on a sense of paranoia if you're not careful. But complacency leads to neglect. Neglect leads to opportunists capitalizing on your lack of attention. So whatever kind of walk of life, whatever sort of endeavor that you're doing, where you see yourself trying to be of assistance or helping someone, not to sound demeaning, but someone who is, I'll put it this way, like stuck in a ruck, just be a little bit cautious. Like another example, let's say you help someone and they say thank you. I was down in my feelies. You know, I was in despair. You came along and you cheered me up. I really appreciate that. And you go, okay, that's wonderful. So you're feeling better now. And they say, yes, thank you. I go on my way. And then next week they're sad again for some reason. And now you've got someone who, whenever they're feeling low, is coming to you to bring them up. So they become dependent on you to bring up their emotional level, you know, to make them feel happier. You know, now maybe you might cater to that for a little while, but you can start to see how, if this is ongoing, where every single time this person is upset, they're coming to you to make them feel better, we've got a problem here. And it's a problem on both. I mean, you're not really helping them anymore at that point. And as much as you might say, okay, I'll cheer you up, you're actually doing them. I mean, sometimes the best way to help someone is by not helping. Now that might sound cruel, but you can see, hopefully you can see where I'm going here. There is a balance, and there is precautions we need to take. And you know, sometimes you help them once, you help them twice, you help them 3 times, but you need to have some kind of limitation where it's like, all right, man, I think maybe what might be helpful be like, okay, listen, look, I'm not going to help you this time, or what I'm going to do instead is, like, here's a number for a therapist. You know, that's going to be the last time I can help you. I can't do anything more for you. I've already gone above and beyond. You need to now go seek some professional help or something. So that could be like the last token of good gesture, or however you want to sort of see it. But that's being a bit more aware of the situation, in my opinion anyway. A bit more aware, maybe a bit more responsible, because if they're becoming dependent on you, and you're not a therapist or a counselor or any of this sort of stuff, not only is it bad for this person suffering, but it's the drowning man drowning two people now. You're going to go down with it. Anyway, going off on a bit of a rambly tangent. Oh, I see a question. Well done, D-Man. Put it in capital letters next time, please, so it stands out even more to me. Hold on, let me just see if there's any other questions prior to that. I'm only looking out for the question word. So whoever's in the chat, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for attending. Hope you're finding this conversation useful. But I'm just scanning for the keyword question. Okay, now I lost the question that D-Man's asked. Where is it gone? All right. Iridium's question, we'll come back to you. We're not finished with you yet. All right. Question at Billy the Goat. Very similar to the one you just addressed. Oh, there we go. All right, done. All right, good night, everyone. Any suggestion on dealing with a narcissist you are tied to and cannot ghost? Oh, a very common question, like such as a family member, perhaps, a boss, a sibling, or even a spouse. And you're in this process of you feel like you're sleeping with the enemy. It kind of depends how you want to go about it. It depends on, first of all, your own awareness of the situation. My advice would be, unless you are confident in being able to start consciously managing the situation, then play possum. Bide your time and gather knowledge so that you are more aware of what you're dealing with, not just the narcissist or your partner, but yourself. And that's going to be a crucial part in any direction you want to proceed in. Because sometimes we say go no contact or escape if you can, but sometimes unless you set the parameters up in such a way, it might not necessarily, like now might not necessarily be the good time to do it. You might have to wait for a good opportunity, like it's like waiting for the stars to align before you can do. And as an example, let's say you discover that, oh my God, my partner is cheating on me. She has been stealing money out of the bank, the family bank account. She has a past criminal record or something like that. I feel like my life is in danger or whatever, you know. I need to get out of here ASAP. But you haven't done any groundwork. You know, your survival instincts is telling you, is screaming at you, get out, get out, get out, jump out the window if you have to, just run for the hills. Yes, that's all well and good, but what if she knows where you're going? Or what if you haven't bothered packing a bag of clothes or bringing any you haven't got any money on you because she stole it, you know, because you've lost access to your account. So you want to set yourself up for, you want to improve your chances of escape. Like all right, so we look at a jailbreak. When people do a jailbreak, I mean, yes, sometimes they do it on the spur of the moment, and you know, they just go like gallivanting out of the prison cell. But usually, anyway, the more notable storytellers amongst those who have such stories is the preparation for the escape. And that's the kind of mentality you want to have when dealing with, in my opinion, again, with such entangled relationships. You want to have some preparation done. You want to be aware of their capabilities. You want to be knowledgeable of what are your own limitations, and where is it that you yourself are going to be a problem in the equation of you escaping. That's quite a humbling one to acknowledge. It'd be like, let's say you have the realizing, it's like, I can't help. I realize that every time someone pokes at me, I instantly go into full-blown rage I've got an anger management issue sort of thing. Because the narcissist would be fully aware that this is one of your characteristics. So all they have to do is call you a name or something, some sort of slur, and boom, you're now fired off for the next 4 hours. So with that awareness, if you've got the realization that this is going to be a problem with my escape, let's say you escape and the police are now involved and they're looking for you, and you realize, uh-oh, if I get triggered, I'm going to go Hulk mode and this ain't going to look good. So you're going to have to somehow have some preparations, probably in the area of like, how do I manage my anger so that I don't end up looking like the monster in all of this. To which maybe your response will be like, all right, from now on, because I know that because I know my partner is going to poke at me intentionally to make me blow up, I'm going to have a third person to communicate through. Or we're only going to have to communicate. We can only communicate through email from now on. Like, if I look at her, I will blow up, sort of thing. So knowing that, and knowing that I can't control it, that honesty that I cannot control my temper, then, well, in doing so, you actually are controlling your temper. But you can then be like, right, I need to plan in such a way that I safeguard it even from myself, so that I do not ruin my own escape plan. So this means you might have to knowingly endure additional pain until you are ready. So that could be hard. That's what I had to do in my relationship. Like, knowingly be like, I need more time. I'm going to have to endure the pain further until the right time. I mean, that can also be a bit having that kind of knowledge, like, this isn't over yet, and we've got more painful hurdles and obstacles to get through. I mean, this is you are strategizing, you are planning, you are preparing, you are having a wider, broader awareness. All of this plays into the great escape, as it were, the fight for freedom. And you might only have one shot, so it does pay to be precautious about it. And there'll be hiccups along the way, probably, something like maybe she might discover that you've got a bug out bag and you're like, uh-oh, now what do I say to her? I'm not sure, like, with D-Man, with your question, if that's the kind of scenario, or if maybe, I mean, if you've got like a family dynamic, like parents who are narcissistic, and you are a young person heavily reliant on your parents, there are things I'm just trying to be aware of. Maybe, I mean, there's so many different kind of scenarios. This could take a long time to try and cover every single base. So I'm trying to think of like a way I can sort of generalize it. For the time being, until some sort of escape manifests itself, an opportunity for you to scarpers presents itself, then I guess the sort of first point of call is a kind of self-protection aspect. To know that, first of all, to realize that this isn't personal. It might seem highly personal, but with understanding of why the narcissist does the things that they do and operate the way that they do and things like that, then you'll come to realize that this isn't personal. You are just, and in some ways, it's kind of like acknowledging and embracing the idea of you are just a utensil. If not you, someone else will be the victim. The narcissist needs victims. They select who's going to be my victim. They don't go like, I'm going to pick you because, oh, gee, this is going to be fun, and I'm going to just be. They pick you because as a utensil, you are providing the necessary supply and fuel. So don't think, with that being said, don't think of yourself as now, you're a toaster. But if you could see, if you depersonalize yourself from what is going on, then you can start to realize that what is going on isn't personal. That it's almost like by happy chance, wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time, sort of thing. It sucks that maybe you're their child, and your parent, and it happens to be your parent being the narcissist or something like that. But if anyone were to body swap with you, swap positions, they would be abused just as much as you are. Like, let's say me and you swap parents. Let's say they're your parents that are being narcissistic, and you want to swap. Please, Billy, you live in my house and I live in yours. And I go, okay, fine, I'll make the transaction with you. Why? I don't know. But let's say we do it anyway. And now I have your narcissistic parents. They'll abuse me just like they abused you. So we can see there, it's nothing personal. It's just they need a punch bag, and you're it. So now obviously what I'm saying here with the family dynamic version is escape might be a bit trickier, not impossible, but trickier. And obviously with age, the range of age as well plays a part. You might have to say goodbye to friends if you do escape. You leave town, you go to another country or something like that. Obviously, good chance you're going to be like saying goodbye to a lot of friends, and memories, and like there are losses. Having that realization as well. Again, there's a lot of these kind of epiphany moments that you can start taking steps towards acceptance. And when you have acceptance, it makes it easier to get to a point of being able to let go. Because as I'm going to cover with Iridium's question, there's an aspect here where because of the lack of self-esteem and conditioning and the distortion of your reality, there's a good chance, and like trauma bonding, that the victim target feels imprisoned. But in reality, the bars on this jail cell are ones that you created. You put yourself in this jail, and there is no lock on the door. That's what's even more bizarre. Where it's like, you mean I could step out anytime I want? And it's kind of like, yes. Like how can I say that kind of thing? Because if there were to be a kryptonite, it's the word no. So when the narcissist comes along and it's like a banshee screaming and all this horror and terror and threatening behavior, and maybe they're throwing things around and all this violence and chaos, you let that get into your mind in a way, far more than it deserves to. You could just be like, it's like, I mean, in a way, like a narcissist is a little bit like a ghost. Boo-hoo, like boo. So you can have a ghost in a house, and it's playing all these pranks on. Well, I mean, all right, not pranks, but like it's spooking you out. It's giving you the heebie-jeebies, right? But it's powerless to actually stop you walking out the front door. You'd be like, fuck this, I'm out of here. Demolish the house for all I care. I don't want to be living in some Ghostbusters house. Get rid of the damn thing. That's someone else's problem. And the ghost is like, come back, you need me. And you're like, no, I don't. No, you say I need you. But and this is the part about where the victim they're thinking differently. And that's another key. You need to think. You can't. What's Albert Einstein say? When like you can't fix the problem with the same kind of thinking. It means you have to think differently. So if you're going to ever escape, if you're ever going or manage the narcissist or whatever it is, you're dealing with the narcissist, going the way you are currently, and you're looking at the results of what you have in front of you or whatever, and you don't like what's going on, well, continuing like that isn't going to answer it, is it? So something's got to change. Now, it's not going to be the narcissist, not for the better anyway. So if it's not them, it's going to have to be you. And that brings up the other question, which is like, well, if you're not willing to change, then forget it, you know. So you have to sort of want that change to take place, and that's your self-esteem kicking in. That little crumb of a self-esteem is like saying, nah, enough is enough. It's time. It's time, you know. And that's like a catalyst which will grow some self-respect, which, you know, we should be really giving, every one of us should be giving ourselves some self-respect before we have any integrity or decent, like the sense of self-worth. Like, I don't deserve this punishment. I don't deserve to be treated like this. This isn't right. I know when I'm wrong and I haven't done something, you know, so why am I being, this isn't right, this isn't fair. So that is the fight for freedom. And largely in part that is a internal, as much as you might think it's you versus them, but it's very much internal, because you're having to override this conditioning in your brain that says, no, we're scum, we don't deserve any happiness. I'm stuck with a horrible wife or a husband. Well, it's because I'm a horrible person, so this is karma or something like that. It's like, no, this isn't right. So we need to override this way of thinking, and it's not an easy process, especially if it's been conditioned and you're growing up with all of this sort of behavior. So the logistical aspects, so going back to D-Man's question here, I've probably gone off on a far tangent, but going back to your question, you could break it down in a way like beginning, middle, end, I suppose. The logistical aspect of like where exactly am I going to move to? What day am I going to make my big escape? How much money do I actually have? Who in my contact list could be a potential mole, you know, a flying monkey? Who can help me out that I can trust? What am I going to do about maybe changing other details or whatever, right? So that's all kind of like logistical, sort of paperwork almost type stuff. And that's where we're going to see a lot of variables with different people, you know, because they'll have different options available to them. But the first sort of point of call is, first of all, stop treating yourself like you are the enemy, because there's a good chance that the narcissist has made you feel like you're the bad guy in all of this, and there's something malfunctioning or some kind of disorder going on with you. So get that out of your head. Start building up your sense of self and your self-esteem. Think better of yourself. Think more deserving of yourself. Treat yourself with the kindness that you were looking for from the narcissist, but you know, you could give that to yourself. So stop looking to other people to save you, really. Now's the time for you to save yourself, and you'll be much happier for that as well. And in a way, with that kind of mindset of like, enough is enough, I ain't going to tolerate anymore, that will naturally push you in the direction of your escape. That would be like like a kick up the backside in a way. Well, that'll be more the driving force for your eventual escape, because your self-esteem won't allow you, once that self-esteem has sparked into existence and life and thinks no more, it becomes an unstoppable force, because it will not allow you to quit. It'll be like, look, even if you have to endure a few more, you know, a period of time of additional pain or whatever, but that self-esteem will be there, present, saying, this isn't going to be for nothing. We are going to escape. You know, this is an absolute. And there's a good chance it won't want to be silenced again. So it all comes down to really whether or not that self-esteem wants to survive. It becomes survival. Do you want to live or do you want to die? Now, if you have that kind of mentality in your mind, like, if I stay in this relationship, it's going to kill me, and you're not happy with that kind of thought, then that means what? That means you're gonna have to survive. I'm going to live through this. I don't know how, I don't know when, but no way, no effing way. I am not going to let this beat me or get me down anymore. You see where I'm going with it? That's the fight for freedom. That's the fight for your life. It is war, the spiritual war, the psychological war. This, not to sound demeaning to those who have been on battlefields, but this type of warfare is so insidiously torturous. It's what, so they say, narcissistic abuse is the worst form of torture that there is, because it's ongoing, because it's so proliferating. It bleeds into every nook and cranny of your soul if you're not careful. And that's why detaching yourself, I mean, just here's another sort of thing to consider. We might try and have this grand plan of escaping. How do I, so your question with D-Man is like, how do I let me read it, probably be the best thing to do. Very similar to the one you addressed. Any suggestion on dealing with a narcissist you are tied to and cannot ghost? That's only the beginning of the journey, the healing, recovering journey. Escaping is one thing. Defending yourself is one thing. What's going to happen once you're gone? Once you have gone ghost? Because it's not over yet. So with even more further insight or awareness, you will realize that is only a bit, I mean, it is a big, grand, like a milestone to be able to disconnect, to cut off, to escape, to ghost, to to get the narcissist out of your life or whatever. That is a huge achievement that shouldn't be under celebrated or whatever. But it is only the beginning. If not to sort of deter you from wanting to escape, but the bigger chunk you'll realize is actually preceding all of that, because of the PTSD, the nightmares, the rumination, the now recalibrating yourself, the seeing the world with new eyes. I mean, a lot of people describe it as being reborn, and in a way, I think it is very fitting, because it is like being reborn. You're seeing the world in a different way, with much more clarity. You're a different person to who you were. That would be part of the grieving process. So there will be a part of you you'll have to go through the grieving process when you get past the narcissist, and that's another milestone to get through. But you get through that part of it, you'll realize that there is the innocence in you that has died. The child in you, in some regards, has died. The relationship has died. Your sense of trust and love has died. So who you are now is not the same person you were before. And that's quite a profound statement as well. And that will help protect you in future, because, hey, maybe you might have escaped your narcissistic parents, but what's to say you're not going to bump into other narcissists in your lifetime? Good chances that you are. So you cannot be so highly focused on like thinking, I'm out of danger, and I'm away from my narcissistic parents or my spouse or whoever it is, my boss or whatever, phew, all is well. Life is going to be wonderful. Sorry, it's not going to be like that. You're still living in shark infested waters, my friend. So, but you have grown and come up. You're no longer a tiny little goldfish anymore. You're a much bigger fish in the waters, and you have experience, and with your self-esteem, etc. You'll be much more hesitant to allow yourself to be compromised in such a way that you did before, because hopefully by this point you will have such appreciation and value for yourself, not in a grandiose narcissistical kind of way, but in terms of an actual wholesome type of way, that you would owe it to yourself not allow that to happen. So I'm hoping that makes sense, and I'm hoping that addresses your question, D-Man. If you want to ask that again in a particular way that makes it a bit more pertinent to a situation or something like that, or a scenario, by all means, do that. So I will now. I see Emmanuel is here. Good evening, sir. I'm looking for the key word of the evening, question, and that word question in of itself, that will be one of the keys to your, well, one of the, I mean, there I was saying that you don't the prison has no lock on it, but the keys to your freedom is to be questioning, to be curious, because obviously, like, you look at what the narcissist, how the narcissist tries to treat you, how they get you, how they control the way you think. Well, the narcissist doesn't want you to be asking questions. Why not? Because that's dangerous, you know. So even if you wanted to be like, if you were totally oblivious of how to proceed going forward, just think of the opposite of what the narcissist is trying to do to you, and that will probably get you off on a good start. You know, the narcissist doesn't want to think highly of you. I wonder why? Because the narcissist knows that you thinking that you're worth more is dangerous to the narcissist. So of course, then it makes logical sense why the narcissist beats you down and tries to blame you all the time, because they don't want you in a position of any power or strength. And if you're pummeled into a pulp, you're much more liable, or you're much more prone to giving the narcissist all the credit and praise and adulation instead of yourself, where it's really meant to be belonging. Maybe I can slide that back into Iridium's question there, because and this is why you may look at the narcissist as some sort of powerful being, godlike, that if you cross or you do bad, you know, you annoy them or something, you're gonna incur the wrath of the Titan, you know. So we inflate the narcissist disproportionately, and there's a clear example, but I've got it in my notes on the side here, where that happens. So I'll save it for when I cover that. Okay. All right. So D-Man replies, thanks for answering. Was in regard to my youngest boy's mother. I am fully aware of her nature, but still must deal with her twice a week. So okay. Trying to recall how it goes. Let me see. Right. Wet the whistle. So they say that the question may come up: what if one parent is narcissistic and the other parent isn't? What happens to the children? Are they doomed? Something like that, you know. The general consensus is that provided the healthier parent is able to address the children's emotional needs, then they may be okay. So it means, in your case, D-Man, here, with how you're phrasing this point here, that as long as dad is aware of what mum is doing and is able to make sure that the children's self-esteem is being maintained, that their need for attention is being catered for, that they are not feeling self-blame or they are developing an inner critic, etc., you can mitigate these aspects. And as the children grow older, without even needing to see, like, it's important to emphasize that you don't, and this is an opinion, but it's generally an agreed upon opinion, that you don't say to the kids, hey, your mum is an evil witch and is toxic, abusive, and don't believe anything she says, and stay away from her, and tell her to F off, and like, that's bad. Because what will end up happening, if you're not careful, is the kids will think that of you instead. They'll be like, hey, dad is the one saying all this mean stuff about mum. When I go over to mum, she's not like what dad is describing. And that's because the narcissistic female knows how to play nice, knows how to love bomb. So if the child says to their mother, like the narcissistic mother, like, hey mum, dad says you're a real meanie and a bully, well immediately, right, mum now knows, right, dad's been saying something to the boys or children, right, well, I'm not going to proceed like that. That will prove dad wrong. The kids will be on my side, and they'll start looking at their dad as the one who is wrong and being abusive and absurd. So you can see how it backfires on you if you're not careful. So the better way is that you allow the children their own opportunity of enlightenment. You give it time. You have patience. You might not like what you see, but the children will they're very intuitive and perceptive. They will figure out, probably quicker than you do, probably quicker than us adults, because we are rigid in our mindsets. But children, because they are developing, they're information sponges. They're constantly looking for inputs so that they can structure a sense of reality, and they are processing all of this because they're young and they're new to the world. So you show the children. I'll try and make it less personalized, in case to try and protect D-Man here. But you allow the children, you give them some respect, in the sense that some confidence in their belief of being able to deduce for themselves that when given enough time, they will realize what to look out for. And with the healthier parent providing that kind of education, encouragement, showing them what love is, for example. And I know it sounds corny, but it's an important aspect. When you allow the children, when you show them that kind of love, that care and compassion, etc., it won't go unnoticed, as it were. So basically what I'm saying is that they'll figure out, they'll naturally, not to pick favorites, but they'll naturally have a kind of like favorite parent. But it's not favorite in the sense of favoritism. It's they pick healthy, which the jealous mind might see it as favoritism. But obviously the child is going to pick who they feel safest with, who they trust the most, who loves them. And if the narcissistic parent isn't doing any of that, which probably they're not, then why would they turn to such a parent? They won't, unless they had to. So they will go to the parent that is showing trust, that trusts the children to be able to make the right decisions, that won't punish the children if they make a wrong decision. Let's say they effed up, kids F up, are you going to punish them for that? Or are you going to be like, no, we all make mistakes and we learn from that. I'm glad you make mistakes. Then they'll realize there's no punishment for learning. You see what I mean? So they're not going to be scared of you as a parent in such a regard. So you can see, you don't have to explicitly say to the child, stay away from these people and only stay with me. What you do instead is you set an example and you allow the children to make up their own mind. And I mean, unless there are other factors really at play. On the whole, just to cover my ass or whatever, they will go to what is most safe, secure, and loving. Because at the end of the day, these are like the core needs that a child has and wants. They don't really want much. As much as they might say they want toys and all sorts of computers and things like that, the reason why they want all these computer games and crazy whatever is because they're not feeling that love from the parent. Essentially, they're getting more love from their phones. This is like look at women or people with their phones today. They get more love from their devices than they do from their parents or those who should matter to them. And that's quite a sad thing. It'd be wonderful to see that sort of thing change. But we can, in small steps, small increments, we can do that with our children by being an example, and being a pillar, a confidant for them, or confidant. I don't know if it's like a French pronunciation, that they can come to us should they need to. It's like the healthy parent would be saying basically like, look, I'm there for you whenever you need me. I will stop the world for you. You are more important to me than my job, or whatever it is I'm doing. Like, I will stop anything that I'm doing if you need me. Like, you just have to say, like, just call me, I'm there. I love you. That's why I'm there. Because you matter so much. The world can stop. And in that way, that protects them not only from the abusive parent, but that protects them in the future, growing older as well, from other potential problems that could arise from not developing in such a loving sort of way. Because, like, as an example, maybe you might have heard it before, but if you've got someone who is attention seeking as an adult, they're very attention seeking, it's a good chance it's because they weren't given attention when they were a child. So that which is, there's a quote from somewhere that goes something like, that which is denied, I've forgotten the second part of it. That which is denied, it becomes something about owning. It owns you. I don't know if someone knows the quote, maybe they could paste it somewhere for everyone else. But the point of the quote is basically, if needs aren't met in the child when they're young, then they're going to seek it out later on in life. So if they're not given enough attention when they're young, when they're older, that's what they're going to be looking for. And the problem is they will never be satisfied, because whatever attention it is that they find is not the attention that they were wanting from their parent. So the only person that can fix it or cure it is the parent. But it's too late now, because the child has grown up into an adult. So we can see this problem where the child who is now adult will continually be looking for attention because of this error that was made in childhood. And that same principle applies, like, to say it's love. They were looking for love, but they never got it when they were a child. So now they're growing up, they're seeking love. I'm on a quest for love. I can never find love. I'm sorry. Sadly, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to, because it wasn't given to you before. So how do you know what to look for, or how to find it, if it's no longer there or accessible or available to you? And that obsessive quest perpetuates the problem, exacerbates it further. It's like, I'm desperate for love now. I'm desperate for attention now. I crave it so much. It's killing me. And it's like, yeah, it shows you how bad you wanted it or needed it when you were a child. And I'm sorry that you didn't get it. So there's a bit of spiritual time traveling going on here if we are to recover and heal. Let's move forward. Oh, I see a question. And there's another question from Emmanuel. Question at Billy the Goat. You mind giving a quick analysis of the 2 minutes video I sent to you? Huh? What 2-minute video? I don't know of any 2-minute video. I think it's a classic case of narcissism, but I'd like to hear from you. Let me see. Where did you send that, Emmanuel? I don't know where you sent it to me. Let me check Discord. I see no video there. Emmanuel, if you would clarify where you sent that, or is there a link in the chat that maybe I missed? Maybe you did. I've never shared other people's content on this channel, so I'm not too sure if I'll want to entertain, not entertain, but if I want to dare, because of the nefarious copyright strikes. So if possible, I'd like to avoid having to broadcast someone else's content. Or unless maybe this is something I'm going to have to come back to at a later stage once I've seen the clip, or maybe if it's covered on Good Mother's channel or something, or somewhere. I mean, I could say straight away, I mean, a 2-minute video and then you're going to have a diagnosis of narcissism wouldn't be very fair. So it would be what do you call it when it's like, it's kind of like, come on now, we all know it is, but for technical sakes, you know, we can't officially say it is, but who are we kidding? You know, it's kind of blatant. Like, we're dealing with someone who is very, and here's another point. A lot of people will be sort of, how am I able to talk about a question without even being able to see? This idea of but you're diagnosing people with narcissism, like full-blown NPD. That's not nice. That's not fair. And it's kind of like, yeah, but you know, listen, that's like bingo. That's like getting several numbers in the lottery. I mean, yes, like you've hit the jackpot with that one, but even if you just get 1 or 2 of these lucky ball numbers, I mean, that's still quite significant. You know, like a unlimited bound of entitlement. You're telling me that's not a problem? You know, you've got someone who is constantly in denial, blame shifting, transferring responsibility, can never be accountable. Okay, they might not have scored all 5 out of the 7 or 9 traits of narcissism, but you're telling me that's not a problem? Just that one characteristic? It may as well be narcissism at that point, because what will happen is it will bleed over. The entitlement will bleed over into the grandiosity. The grandiosity will bleed over into the superiority. That means putting people down. That means the humiliation, the ridicule. That means you're insignificant. That means I'm not going to see you as a person anymore because you're nothing but a coffee maker to me. You know, so you can see this cascading effect where it bleeds over, and just because maybe you might have only been caught out with one of these characteristical traits doesn't mean that there are other traits waiting to express themselves. You know, maybe this person is able to elude, to hide away their lack of self-esteem because of their grandiosity. They can now manufacture this false confidence in appearance to others to fool them into thinking that this person has an uber high self-esteem, when in fact it's compensatory for a ultra low self-esteem, full with utter disgrace, shame, disdain, contempt, and all this other not nice stuff. You know, so the art of being aloof, as it were, for the narcissist, to go under the radar and be undetected. So for it to be noted or spotted in someone, it in a way, the narcissist has slipped up. But yeah, if Emmanuel could send me a hold up. James of the House Bond. Emmanuel, is that you? All right, we're gonna move on to the next question. Iridium, I haven't forgotten about you. All right. So G-Man asks, have you read The Explosive Child by Ross Greene? No, I haven't. Sounds like a fun book. If not, any suggestion on studies for autism? Oh, yeah. No, the answer is no, I don't have any suggestions, but the subject of autism. Yeah, I've been updating my sort of knowledge or whatever of autism, and yeah, I might be moving into that direction at some point in the near future. Too much of this narcissistic kind of stuff, it gets a bit tiresome, you know what I mean? So yeah, so if not, any suggestion on studies for autism that you found helpful with your little one? Oh, well, it's sweet that you're thinking of my little one, so thank you for that. Not any that particularly come to mind, just general research and hearing accounts of other people with the conditions or different family dynamics, different YouTubers, and just their testimonies and their experiences of autism. That I'm finding that quite helpful recently, and how they're managing the different aspects of it. But yeah, like on the whole, I think to be helpful to someone with autism, it's a little bit, I've mentioned it before, the sort of parallels with narcissism, but I want to make it utterly clear that autistic people are not narcissists. If anything, the way I look at an autistic person, I see them as the true empath amongst the so-called empaths. If there were true empaths, people with compassion, caring, all this sort of good stuff, then I'll describe that as the autistic person. But to help someone who is autistic, or in my case, like with my daughter, autistic, I find that a lot of that caregiving skill derives from the caregiver. So in my case, for example, I am only as helpful or useful to her as skillfully minded of her autism I can be, if that makes sense. Like I have to take care of my own self-care, my own mental processes, and make sure I'm calibrated correctly so that I can be an effective and useful caregiver to her. Otherwise, I'm just a bellend, like a nanny or something like that, who has no real, well, I don't want to say nanny, I don't want to put a nanny down, but I mean, just you get what I mean, like just someone who's just there to wipe her backside and stick a spoon in her mouth, sort of thing. So like the better I can level up, for lack of a better word, then the better I can be of assistance to my autistic child. And in return, if there's a reward sort of system, the better the relationship is, because I have a much I see the world from her eyes a lot of the time, and I find it fascinating. I find it marvelous. It's a beautiful mind that they have, and it's almost because it's such a intuitive, feely type of experience. It's almost hard to articulate in words what exactly it is I see in her or I experience with her. But it's a very, like, a lot of people like to speak of their children like, I'm proud of you, my daughter, I'm proud of you, my son, like, that kind of thing. But when I speak to her, I say to her things like, I'm glad you chose me to be your dad. Like, because it's to be your father is an honor for me. I feel selfish in saying that. But I feel privileged and lucky to be her father, because she gives me an appreciation for life that I couldn't ever, I don't think, possibly imagine on my own. And this is through an autistic lens. So I'm still processing, and I've got to spend probably a long time, thinking all of this out, because my studies and research and my mannerisms and my talks and my content and etc. is mainly coming from that narcissistic side of things. But I'm hoping that one day in the future, that part, the narcissistic side, will pitter down, will be not so, because we would have been there and done that. And that's neglecting, in my case personally, like, that's neglecting what I could be focusing on, which is trying to help my autistic daughter. Why am I spending energy and time thinking about narcissism when really that should be jettisoned from my life or our lives and shouldn't really be a factor anymore? So priorities, Billy, focus on trying to help the autistics more than the narcissists, or the, not the sound of it, put the victims to one side, but you know what I mean. But no, so I'll make a note of that. Is it a good book, by the way? I'm presuming it must be, otherwise you wouldn't be mentioning it. The Explosive Child by Ross Greene. Do we have another question? Yes. Okay, hold up. Oh, it's a short clip I'm talking about. Okay, I have received the clip, but how am I going to do this? Because I can't watch a clip and just leave you guys hanging for a couple of minutes. That'd be so rude of me, and I'm not able to really share the clip either, especially when it's been sent to me on Discord. So, would you mind, Emmanuel, that I get back to you on that? Either as a private response, so you got an answer immediately, or if it's being talked about on a stream like Good Mothers, maybe, for example, I can give you a more publicly sort of spoken viewpoint on it. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it here right now on this stream, is what I'm saying. So if we can do it some other way, then that would be preferred, sir, if that is all right. But if you would like to maybe drop a link, I don't know if the video is on YouTube or something like that. If you want to drop the link in the chat box so that anyone here wants to see what it is you're talking about, and they can click on the link and they can find out for themselves, you can do that. You can do that if you want. So feel free to drop a link in the chat and people can check it out so they know that your narc radar is being triggered or something like that. Okay. Okay. Oh, no, Shinobi, maybe you weren't here when I said, please start questions with question, big capital letters, so that it stands out. You're lucky I saw the question mark. So, brother, FBI negotiators say that all people love to talk about themselves. Yes. I don't know about if that's what they say, like the FBI negotiators, but people love to talk about. Is there such a thing as healthy narcissism, or is there an ego that likes to put itself priority as number one? Yes. It's like a drug. So at what point is it the narcissism? Ooh. And what point is it normal to be obsessed with self? Ooh, quite a ooh, right. Have we all got another half hour? Everyone get comfortable. This is going to be a long one. So at what point is it narcissism? Right. This is the perplexing thing about narcissists, because these traits that we talked about before, grandiosity, entitlement, denial, false sense of self, blame shifting, avoiding accountability, responsibility. What else is lack of boundaries, a lack of empathy. Trying to remember the checklist, but you know what I'm talking about, the checklist, right? All of them, including the lack of empathy, we can all be guilty of at some point. We all exhibit these characteristics at some point, and it might not necessarily be to such an extreme length, but it's in us all. Note that I said at some point, because where this is in part where the distinction is so why is it we're not all narcissists then? It's because it comes and goes. It's because we regulate and modulate, and we adapt our behaviors and things like that. So we're in healthier people are in a fluctuation state. They're never just one thing. However, for the narcissist, it is embedded in every fiber of their being, everything that they're doing, from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, from being in the presence of other people to being on their own, from doing noticeable activities to doing the mundane, I don't know, farting or something. It's in their blood, so to speak. There isn't a gene for it, but there may as well be a gene for it. So they get no time off. We, on the other hand, may be at times narcissistic. We can be egotistical. We can self-indulge and talk about ourselves every so often or whatever. But we can also be a bit irritating to ourselves in doing so, and we will stop doing that kind of thing. We won't continually do it. There is a time and place, or we get, or something else happens to us and we change our mind about it or whatever. But for the narcissist, they don't get any time off from this disorder. It's part of their personality. As a personality illness disorder, it's built into their personality style. So there's no escaping their narcissism. They can't switch it up. Well, they can't actually. There is an argument that says that they can control their narcissism in part so that they could be more manipulative. So if we take an abusive, well, they're all abusive, but I mean, if we take a type of narcissist who is very vulgar, for instance, they can bite their lip depending on the situation. So if they're trying to get a job, they know going to the job and being bombastic isn't going to succeed. So they will cut that. They will suppress themselves. But as soon as they're outside the job interview, they're back to their default factory mode. So there's an argument there. It's like, well, the narcissist is aware of abuse. They can control it. But the thing is, even though they're controlling it, what is the mechanism that is doing that controlling? It's their narcissism. So the narcissism, even though it's being controlled, it is still present. And that is one of the distinctions of narcissism, is that there is no escape from it. This person is through and through narcissism. It's in there, no matter what they're doing, no matter how they're trying to mask it. The who is in Wizard of the man behind the curtain is still there, pulling the strings or whatever it, you know. So so that's one way. So at what point? So yeah, I mean, I'm just like thinking of other angles I can sort of approach this question with, maybe. I mean, the negotiator part of the FBI, they're feeding into. I'm presuming one of the reasons why they allow the other person to talk about themselves, because it's a topic of comfort. You know, we all sort of know ourselves to a degree. So if you're meeting a stranger, an FBI negotiator, for example, and they're interested in what you have to say or who you are, that could be a de-stressor, because it's like you can, although the attention is being put on this person, it's on a subject they are in theory a bit comfortable with, because they know themselves, so they could talk about their interests, they could talk about music and songs they like or whatever, they could talk about the family dynamics, how many brothers and sisters they got, they could talk about their history, where they grew up. There's all sorts of life experiences that they've had, they can easily like accessible in their mind, and that can be a stress reducer. So I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised anyway. I'm not an FBI negotiator. It'd be fun to have one on the stream one day. If any of the FBI are out there and would like to come on the stream, please send me a message. But I'm sure de-escalating the stress would be in there somewhere. You know, you don't want this person to go completely, jump off the deep end. And it keeps them occupied and distracted as well. So, and you could build a relationship. I suppose that's another aspect the negotiator wants, is you want to negotiate. So it helps to have a connection. How do you have a connection? You need to build intimacy. You need to have a bridge. So you need some sort of connection. So if I ask you to tell me about yourself, I'm saying I am interested in you. It means it's kind of like I like you well enough to say that I'm interested to know who you are. Tell me about who you are. Then you're building a rapport. And when you build a rapport and all this and the intimacy and the connection, you're now building trust. So instead of me being looked at as some sort of enemy, you're actually confiding in me, because you're telling me about yourself, maybe some things that are a bit sensitive, like, oops, I didn't mean to tell you that I don't know, I kissed a teacher in my 4th grade or something like that. Oops, but I've told you now. So even though you're an FBI investigator or a negotiator, you're carrying my secret in a way. So I'm gonna have to sort of try and trust you and have this relationship, even though you might look at it as like a pseudo business type of thing. That could be a point about, who is it, the histrionics, because obviously from the FBI negotiator point of view, I mean, this is a superficial kind of relationship. The only reason why they're having a relationship is because of the situation, but for the other person, they give it more value than it's worth. It's like, maybe when the handcuffs go on, they're like, you lied to me. They feel betrayed by the investigator because of how much they entrusted the FBI person. So that's a histrionic characteristic, where they overestimate or overvalue relationships. It's like, let's say I bought you a beer, Shinobi one, and you thought this is such a grand gesture of kindness that you're like, Billy's my absolute best friend of my entire life, and he's my blood brother. And it's like, whoa, dude, I just bought you a beer. Calm down. You see what I mean? So that's one of the flaws, characteristics of a histrionic, where they overvalue relationships, intimacy. And at what point is it normal to be obsessed with the self? Well, I mean, it depends. one argument that could be made is it's only a problem. This goes back to like narcissism, really. It's not against the law to be a narcissist. It's not against the law to have OCD. It's not against the law to have any of these sort of conditions or illnesses or disorders. It's only against the law when they break the law, you know. So, and it's only a problem when it starts to have an impact on a person's life or those around them. So you could have a relationship with a narcissist and it could actually function okay. Let's say the narcissist abuses someone else but doesn't abuse their spouse, treats their spouse actually quite nice. It doesn't mean the narcissist in that relationship is a angel, but in terms of if you're the spouse living with this narcissist, can it work? Yeah, it could, theoretically. I don't know how it might sit morally knowing that they're abusing someone else, but that aside, you'd be like, well, they're not cheating on me, they're not lying to me per se, they're not really abusing me. I feel good about I still got myself, my sense of self and my self-esteem. I've got children with this person. So, I mean, plenty of people, that is what's happened. They have a lifelong marriage, not knowing, they're dead now, never realized that they were actually dealing with a narcissist. So, so you can see what I'm saying is that it's only a problem when it becomes an actual problem, where it has an impact on people's lives. So with that part of your question, Shinobi, at what point is it normal to be obsessed with the self? Well, this isn't really a problem until this obsession is now like, dude, can you stop talking? Like we're trying to order dinner here and we can't because you're just continually talking about yourself. This is like, we're starving, like we're going to have to make arrangements, so that, yeah, at that point we can see how this obsession with talking about yourself or being infatuated with yourself has become a problem. It's preventing the running course of day-to-day life. So if it's almost a bit of at what point is it normal to be obsessed with the self? So we can see that if it's problematic, if it has an impact, then yes, it's a problem. But otherwise, if not, this is a normal behavior. I mean, if we're not careful, it becomes accepted behavior. So it might end up, what I'm thinking about is like, if this person suddenly was not obsessed with themselves, now you think something is wrong, because it's like normally you're obsessed with yourself and we come to grown used to it and we accept it. It hasn't been impacting on us. We might think you're a bit vain and egotistical and full of yourself or whatever, but be that as it may, never, whatever, fine, okay. You do you, boo, kind of thing. But today you bizarrely have not mentioned yourself one little bit. Is something wrong? So we can see that when things become normal, a stability gets built into it, and it becomes a regulation. It regulates a person's like well-being to some degree, because clearly, like now that on this day, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Sorry. Because on this day they're not being obsessed with them. Now you can see this is out of the ordinary. It's irregular. It's could be a call for concern or a need for concern here. So I guess generally what I'm trying to say here with Shinobi is like, if someone is a bit full of themselves, egotistical, vain, etc., then so be it. I mean, you might think of them as being a bit shallow or self-absorbed, self-centered. It might well indeed tick one of the boxes, because being self-centered is, I think it's like one of the sort of it fits in line with the the checklist of narcissism, self-importance kind of thing. But just because they tick one box doesn't mean they're a narcissist, doesn't mean they're mentally ill or deranged or something like that. So it could be just a unfavorable trait of theirs that maybe you don't like, but it's nothing to really necessarily be alarmed about, only until this is becoming either something impactful either for the person themselves or for those around them, or some kind of detriment to their lifestyle in some sort of way. Maybe like, for example, like they're so obsessed with themselves that they got a bad spending habit. They're constantly buying vanity items, and they're not eating as a result. Or like I said, they're so obsessed with their appearance. Maybe there's an element of shame there, dysphoria, where they feel like they are overweight, but they're a skinny person and they're just losing weight. They're not eating, and now they're in danger of starvation. They could die because they're not eating as a result of this obsession. You see how we've got it's impacting their life in different ways. So it's a little bit of joining the dots. I would suspect. In what ways does this obsession? In what ways is it a problem? But in of itself, be that as it may. It's like some people might have terrible dad jokes. Doesn't mean you're going to crucify them for it. Now, let me see. Is there any other questions? It would be nice to go back to Iridium's question. Otherwise, I might have a part 2 to this. The question that never gets answered. Wild narcissists can turn down the overt narcissism to the maximum. Narcissistic spy. It's crazy to think narcissists can economize, and that in many ways they may be better at it than most. Well, that's not a question, so. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. Bing. What is the opposite of narcissist? Empath? No. They would like the empath, the virtue signaling type of empath, the superhero empath would like to think of themselves as the opposite. Some describe it as the two sides of the same traumatized coin. So it's nothing to be proud about. You're coming from a traumatized background. It doesn't make you virtuous in any way. This is the problem with the superhero version of the empath. Now, some people argue that these are just basically covert narcissists. But could there theoretically be an empath? Well, yes, because if narcissism if we're talking about a spectrum, and narcissism is supposedly at one end, you graduate and now you become a narcissist. Well done. Well, then what's at the other end? And does that necessarily mean you are anti-narc? You are the opposite. You are the mirror opposite. Well, the other end would be the empath, supposedly. But does it mean it's better than a narcissist? No, it's just as toxic. Sorry to tell that to any of you empaths out there who like to stick this label on your forehead, but sorry. Watch how triggered they will be hearing that. Just like a narcissist. So you prove my point. You look at the criteria. They have poor boundaries. They need other people to regulate how they feel. They have a sense of grandiosity. This empath is virtuous. I mean, come on, that's pretty grandiose, don't you think? They are angels and the narcissist is devils. So complete imaginary, fantastical sort of descriptions of yourself. Super empowered. It's not like you're just a mean person and you're a good person. No, you're the devil and I'm an angel. It's like we're not even human at this point. That's how superseding we are. So, and this is why an empath, under this pretense of superpower, intergalactic, Super Saiyan or whatever, is not healthy in the slightest. As much as they might think they are and they're nice and all this, so does the narcissist. Sorry. Now, covert narcissists, I would probably fit them in the category of the communal narcissist, because they like to gravitate and operate within communities. The communal narcissist is a relatively new classification of narcissist. You'll have, I'm trying to remember now, the different types of like subcategories of narcissists, but no, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, communal is so it's like the charitable type of narcissist. So do narcissists perform good deeds? Yes, they do. Do they tell the truth? Yes, they do. They're not always lying. They are not always abusive. That is a psychopath. Much better to manipulate someone if you mix in some good days with the bad. So a narcissist can be good, and a narcissist can be very, very charitable, but it's not because they want to be helping people. They're using the people they give charity to. They are utilizing that as a PR campaign. It's like, look how good I am for giving this money to charity. F those people. I don't really like them in real life, but I need them. I use them because by helping them, it makes me look better. And that's how the communal narcissist fundamentally generally operates. Another one would be the spiritual narcissist, or the religious type of narcissist. Now, okay, here we go. Right. I'm sorry, RP Pope. I'm an empath. I took offense to that. I've just learned that not all people care about others. Now, we can all be empathetic. This is something that an empath will may struggle with, because they'll be like, look, I care about people. I feel if they're sad, I feel sad. So I'm an empath, right? If they're angry, it makes me angry. I'm an empath, right? Well, that's empathy. A healthy person will have empathy. That in of itself isn't really, I mean, it is special. It's a nice quality trait and everything to have. But it doesn't make you a cut above the rest. If it does, in some way, like when someone feels sad, it makes me feel ultra sad. I mean, I'm dysfunctional because I feel so much sadness because of someone else's sadness. Well, we see a lack of boundaries here. That's a problem. So as sympathetic as we might be towards an empath because they have troubles regulating their own emotions, it's something they should take note of. That it's like, hello, this is a problem where you're telling me that your emotion is dependent on those around you. So this can get you into trouble if you're not careful, right? Because let's say you're in a good mood, but you walk into a room and it's full of crying people, and now you're crying, and you've got no legit reason to be crying. You're only crying because they're crying. This is not really empathy at this point, because there's no context there. You're not really. It's not like you are sympathizing with what has happened. There are reasons for them to be upset. You're just basically mirroring what they are outputting. So you have no idea why you're crying as well. All you know is, oh, well, I'm crying because they're crying. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like the true empath, in my opinion, is, I see it in autism, or especially in children, where they watch something and they are reactive. They mirror what they're seeing on TV or their friends. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just doing it. But I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to lump empaths and narcissists in the same kind of, it might sound like I am, but in the same kind of, like, an abuser type of malicious, predatory type of person. There are differences. Like the narcissist is fully intent. They're doing it on purpose, you know. They're going to abuse people. Don't be mistaken, right? We all know this. They are going to use people, abuse them, discard them, treat them like utensils, have no care or sympathy for them, right? But just like how I was talking before about how autistics and narcissists have similarities, but really they shouldn't be compared with one another. But they have similarities in the sense, like, let's say we'll take they're unable to regulate their emotions. So bingo, they seem different. But the reasons why they can't regulate the mechanisms that is driving this observed behavior differ. So for that reason, an autistic person isn't a narcissist. It's actually kind of insulting. I know a lot of autistic people get offended when they are being described when they're in the same conversation with narcissism, because it's like, no, don't put us in the same bubble here, you know, or the same circle. We are not narcissists. It's like, no, you're not. But it's a common mistake, or an amateur mistake, to conflate the two and just to think of them as one and the same. And it's a little bit like that, what I'm trying to convey with the empath and the narcissist. They have similar behaviors, but their motivations behind these behaviors, or well, they have similar outputs. The appearance, or what is outputted out, what emerges from their behaviors, has similar appearances, like the reliance on other people, like poor boundaries, right? I mean, if you're crying because someone else is crying, you've got a poor boundary. Sorry. But the narcissist has a poor boundary, for example, intentionally, so that they can infiltrate your mind and hijack the person they're targeting. Now, the empath isn't doing that, but they suffer from the same problem of a boundary issue. So I hope I'm not offending you too much there, RP Pope, just giving you food for thought. So I'll just read the other part of that. I've just learned that not all people care about others. That follows what I learned. Others don't care about themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, even worse so, not just that they don't care about other people, but they actually despise and, you know, hate humanity, or hate other people is an offense. Because it triggers, it reflects back, you know, things like self-shame and disappointment, and for other people to be able to have happiness is a kryptonite to a narcissist. It's like, you have the thing that I want and I hate you for it, so they're not going to care. And we're seeing an increase in this lack of compassion and empathy in today's world. So, is this a question? I also did not choose to be empathetic like a child. I just am able to feel what comes out of others. Okay, so let's backtrack. We are dealing with, at its core, at its source of origin, survival. How to survive. So this is why narcissism is sometimes described as a survival defense mechanism, and it has been implemented in childhood at a critical moment in the child's life, when the child realizes, oh crikey, like, I don't know how I'm going to continue in life surviving like this. I need to do something. And the narcissist makes a decision, well, in order for me to survive, I need to be something else. And they become a performer. They're on a pedestal, and they realize that it's this performance that will succeed in surviving life, and being authentic to who they really are is going to get them killed. So goodbye, true self. I hate you. That's the narcissist sort of decision-making process. Now, that's one way of choosing to survive life. There are others. Some people become highly sensitive and attuned to the needs of other people. And in doing so, they are accepted into like tribalistic, like into the crowd, into the herd. They will not be pushed outside, because being alone in the scary world is what's going to kill you. So survival depends on being part of a community. So how do you become accepted in a community? You either have to have some sort of skill, or some sort of resource, some sort of benefit, or you make yourself indispensable. So a good way of doing that is becoming a counselor, is becoming the person that people can talk to. So you become empathetic. And in part, empathy is a trait of survival strategies. Sorry, that's one of the reasons why we have empathy. It's a good one. It's not something that should be like shunned. Like, in my opinion, I mean, it's good to be empathetic. It's good to be able to relate and to feel what other people feel, to have some compassion and to understanding and appreciation, etc. But this is the trouble. Now, you might not like hearing this one, RP Pope, and I hope this isn't the case with you. But to have empathy for someone requires a sense of self. Because if you don't know who you are, if you've got no sense of self, then you can't really distinguish who am I and who are you. So how are you going to be empathetic towards someone if you can't make this distinction of them and you? And this is a problem when there's a lack of boundaries, because there's what it's called enmeshment. Identities get merged. And this is in part one of the problems for the quote empath is, I feel your pain. That kind of expression. That's not very nice. That's not very respectful. It sounds sweet and lovely. I feel your pain. But do you really? Let's say I've got a leg cut off, right? You have 2 legs, and you turn to me and say, I feel your pain. Do you? How? Would you like me to cut your leg off? Because that's the only way you're going to know how you feel my pain. So you can see how sentiments, as nice meaning and well-intended as they are, aren't necessarily true. And it takes away from the person who actually has that pain. Because let's say we use that leg amputation example, and you say, I feel your pain, then you are stealing from me what it feels like to have one leg cut off. It's like, unless you've got also a leg cut off, then how can you possibly know what I'm feeling? So by you saying you could feel what my pain, and you can understand, I mean, maybe you can appreciate it's difficult for me, and I could try to relate as best I can. But to say I could feel it, like I know what you feel, is saying like, so you're saying it's not that bad then, because you still got 2 legs. You're obviously not in pain for having 2 legs. You can tap dance. So you're saying that whatever pain that you have for having 2 legs is the same as my pain for having my leg cut off. So you're devaluing. You're as well intended as you might be, and compassionate and all this. You need to be careful of the other person's emotion. So you can see how it's a dicey situation for the empath, because they're good, they have good intentions, but they might not be aware that they actually cause harm. Whereas with a narcissist, they don't give a F, they don't give a F, yo. They enjoy doing harm. They would say that intentionally, knowing like, hey, I'm going to actually send this guy a tap dancing video that will wind him up, and they'll do that, that kind of thing. They'll be totally unsympathetic. They'll think it's hilarious. So I'm not trying to criticize an empath in the way that, like, of the sort of evil kind of nature of a narcissist. I'm just basically saying that the empath, the narcissist, autistic people, even everyday people, the way it's getting now, people with low self-esteem, suicidal people, depressed people, there's something unhealthy about them, right? I mean, let's not beat about the bush, really. I mean, we all got problems. The human condition is one of suffering. It's something that we can't really escape. So we all come from dodgy, banged up sort of, well, banged, like unhealthy. We're surrounded. We've got friends. We've got social media. We've got society. We've got all sorts of. We've got diet and nutrition, and there's all sorts of angles you can look at it from. We're human. We're not invulnerable. We've got vulnerabilities. We're not 100% healthy, and to be 100% healthy, I think there must be something wrong with you if you are 100% healthy. I mean, it's kind of like a contradiction, but so what matters is the ability to have a balance and to be functionable, to know what is enough. So I hope that's a bit of an explanation anyway. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to roast you, RP Pope. Hey, at one point I used to, when I was learning about narcissism and I came across the word empath, automatically I was like, oh, does that make me an empath? And it wasn't until later I was like, maybe I need to rethink this, because if you're involving yourself with a narcissist, and in my case it was for like 12 years with this one particular person, previous relationships before I noticed the same sort of thing. So I'm in and out of narcissistic relationships throughout my life. And as much as I might like to point the finger at, like, women are toxic and bad, and women this and women that, the fact my presence was in the relationship, my contribution or whatever, I have to hold myself accountable to some regard. I can't completely say that I was healthy and they did this to me. No. And this is what I'm going back to with Iridium's question, where he asked, let's go back to Iridium's question, because I've been jabbering away for a long time now, and I'm beginning to get a bit tired. So wait, let me just wait before Iridium's question. Let me just double check. See, right now the empathy in me is wanting to make sure RP Pope is okay, right? So, all right, not that far. I would just leave. Oh, you want to call in? Would enjoy to elaborate. Oh, okay. I might make a that's fact. I swear Billy has been studying my the amount of times people say, like, are you reading my mind? It's like, yes. Yes. Okay, what I'm going to do, RP Pope, if you're interested in coming on, okay, great. We're here to learn, man. And like, I'm gonna put. How should we do this, RP Pope? I'm gonna put the StreamYard link, but it's only going to be for RP Pope. But at the same time, I want to finish Iridium's. Pope, would you mind? Shall I fly through Iridium's? I'll try and fly through answering the rest of his questions. Maybe 15, 20. I feel so bad. 15 minutes for answering a question. Well, yeah, the way things are. I'm sorry. Would you mind that I bring you on afterwards? Because I don't know. Or should I get you on now? Pope, are you willing to wait, or do you want to come on now while we're discussing it? What I'll do is I'll put the link there anyway, I suppose. So there's a StreamYard link, and it's only for RP Pope. I'm going to let it on tonight, I'm afraid. If people want to come on for a conversation at another time, it'll have to be another time, because I don't see myself going on to 3 hours. I mean, yeah. So TNFS. There's a lot of guys on here claiming to be victim, but they're abuser. This is the thing. You're gonna find, if we're saying abuser, like predators, you're gonna find them in every community. Particularly ones where you have emotionally vulnerable members, like survivor communities, like empath communities, like the MGTOW and Manosphere. These are emotional. As much as people talk about controlling their emotions, it's implying, it's like you can infer, well, then there must be some sort of emotional problem going on in such communities. I mean, it's not like we're a technical support community, are we? So we're talking about issues of the heart, issues of the mind, issues of the soul. This is emotional language. So these are emotional communities. Great for predators and abusive people. But so a lot of guys on here claiming to be victim, but they're abuser. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, even abusive people can get abused. I'm not sure, and I mean, you got an element of, you got either they're aware or they're not aware of their own their own makeup, as it were. You know, their own how they're put together. So you can have an abusive person, but they have, from their point of view, they have no idea. They think they're actually the kindest of the kind. They don't realize that they're being abusive. And here they are as part of a community, like this one may be, and they sound convincing. It's like, oh, I was in a terrible relationship. I was being abused by my ex. And it's like, and how did you react? Oh, I used to smack her a few times, but that's besides the point. You know, like she used to spit in my food and she would call me names. It's like, you have no real, like, you just told us you smack her around, and you don't think that's abuse. So you can see how, like, in their mind, they don't recognize, they don't even see their own behavior. So how are they going to modify, how are they going to change their behavior if they can't even see it as being problematic? Yeah, it's a bit of a tough call to make, TNFS. Like, does this mean you help them, or you push them out to fend for themselves, or what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, you might end up with, like, both parties are abusive to one another. Like, so what do we do? It's like, well, maybe, maybe not have them in here or something. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that we go around policing. The other kind of suggestion I could probably make is just improve our awareness so that we can manage, because we're not going to, what we can what we can say for sure is we're never going to be able to escape or run away from an abusive, but they might have it on the down low and you don't realize until it's already too late. You've got a friendship that's been going on for a year, and now you finally discover that they've murdered someone in their history, and you're like, whoa, I could never, the possibility, like, so it's like, I prefer the sort of taking stock of where, all right, it might be one thing we encounter someone abusive, but what are we personally going to be accountable for in this? Like, are we going to continue talking to them? Are we going to be a bit more sensitive, how we careful how we talk to them or interact with them? Are we going to run for the hills? Like, where are we in the equation of this picture, or whatever? I mean, yeah, we've got someone who is bad behaved, they're abusive in the community. And what are we going to do? Like, am I going to let them influence me then? Am I going to let them make decisions for me? Or can I coexist? You know, so as long as we have the mental fortitude, the self-esteem, etc., we've got our boundaries, we've got our escape plans if everything goes pear-shaped, we've got our like measures in place, as it were, our precautions in place or something like that, then personally, I'm not too afraid of abusive people because I don't allow them to abuse me. Well, I try not to. Maybe they do and I don't even realize it. But the point being is I'm of the philosophy we integrate danger into our lives. So it's like playing with fire, you know. So it comes with wisdom, responsibility, experience, skills, and that kind of stuff, to mitigate any potential dangers and harm. But I'm not one for running, you know. I was never a runner. If ever I got into trouble in the street, in a way, I'm not going to be able to run from it. So I'm going to have to make a stand and fight. I'm afraid I'm not exactly a good fighter either, but I can't run. So it's like, well, what do I do? Stand there like Bobo the doll. Well, I see. Our Pope says he can wait. Okay, all right. Well, maybe later tonight or tomorrow, I want to go over some of your statements. You could teach me some more stuff. Oh, well, yeah, certainly. Did everyone bring their notepads with them? Feel free to be jotting down. Make your notes. If there's something you know, quote me or whatever, you want me to come back to it. Yeah, we could do all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna. Right, I've been streaming according to the clock for 2 hours, 15, we'll say, we'll round it down. I'm going to go through the rest of Iridium's question. Let me see, where was that question? Let me put that banner back up. And we'll see what time it is. I don't know if can you hear my voice beginning to go? And so I mentioned, right, from the beginning, from the top. Just in case you're wondering, I do have notes to the side, but it's not 4 pages long this time, luckily. It could be. They're just sort of bullet points. So what is the easiest way to strip I spoke too soon about losing my voice. What is the easiest way to strip a narcissist of their powers? All right, we already talked about it. Basically, you're giving them the power. You give them access. You got poor boundaries. So the narcissist is going to step over them with a smile. You allow them in as an invader. And it's no fault of you. It's not like shame on you. I mean, you weren't to know any better. You know, like when we're born in life, no one's really instructed us to be like, hey, watch out for someone who's doing this, this, and this, because that's a narcissist. I mean, this is relatively speaking, modern new age sort of information you're receiving, like from sort of 1990, so only 30 years of human existence. I mean, we live with narcissism for a very long time. It hasn't been as important as a topic until modern times because of the lack of complacency, because we didn't know what to look out for. We didn't realize that sticking your head in a tiger's mouth was actually a bad idea until we suddenly started finding all these tiger teeth in people's heads, and we were wondering, why is it there as tiger it's like, well, I think people are putting their heads in a tiger's mouth. Maybe we should start telling people to stop doing that. So this is why we can't be angry with people for getting involved with a narcissist. They didn't know. You know, I mean, if you did know, there would be something. If we're saying that there's something unhealthy, I don't want to say there's something wrong with you, but I mean, if there's something that could be, like a bit unhealthy, this is why you're susceptible to getting ensnared by the narcissist. You're vulnerable because you're easy prey for the narcissist. Well, if you intentionally, because you know the other person is a narcissist, and you intentionally get yourself involved, then Jesus, there is something wrong with you. I mean, there must be at that point. So we don't we can forgive the naivety of someone getting caught up in a narcissist's trap. So the power. What kind of power does a narcissist? I mean, they. Oh, I just spotted. Can one of the bot mods get rid of that infidel for us? Not even a proper troll that I can. Hold on. What am I doing here? Right. Just taking care of some admin here. Admin, are you on it? Yeah. We've got some trash bots. Oh, thank you kindly, Tim. Bang. Take that, you bots. I see a question by Dan Smith. Why is there an explosion of diagnosis of narcissism nowadays? It's popular. It's popularity. It's a buzzword. It's a quick, simple answer. But there is another 4 pages that we can go into explaining why there is an explosion, diagnosis, and of narcissism. I mean, that's almost like a 3-parter. An explosion because it's trendy, popular, it's fashionable. A diagnosis, probably because everyone loves to diagnose and as such are misdiagnosing. And of narcissism, because the word narcissism, I mean, I call it the N-bomb, because it's quite a potent slur to throw at someone. So usually it's someone who's quite narcissistic, actually, who wants to, or there's an element of narcissistic to be like really pointing the finger of God at someone and being like, you there are a narcissist. We must be disgusted by you because of you, narcissist. You know, instead of just, I mean, we're like what we're answering with Iridium's question here. We're giving this great power to the narcissist when really we should be like, these narcissists are kind of pathetic. They're a bit of a nuisance, really. It's like bugs at your camp. So it's almost like it doesn't really matter about the diagnosis of a narcissist. It's just basically this kind of behavior is like, I don't even care if you are a narcissist or not. I don't want to tolerate any of this shenanigans. Get the hell out of here. You know, I don't need a diagnosis of narcissism to kick your ass out of here, kind of thing. So, but no, we like to have it, and society is encouraging it more and more. Anyway, I'm getting a little distracted. We're trying to plow for Iridium's question. It's the question that will never die. I'm gonna have to ban Iridium. No more questions from you. Right. So the kind of power the narcissist gets, it's in many forms. It's basically whatever they're scavengers. They'll take anything. You know, negative attention is still attention. So attention in any shape and form. The belief in that they're powerful. You believe that they're powerful. Look at the question, how it's worded. The easiest way to strip a narcissist of their power. Right. You're immediately assuming that the narcissist has power. So you've given the narcissism power through this question. So your belief that the narcissist is powerful. You think that who you're dealing with must be intelligent. They're evil. They're superpowered. They're beyond this dimension. They are cunning to they're masterminds, and that might not be the case. Not really. Not when you think of it through and through. If they were so smart, then why is it their life tends to end in shambles? It's because because they're cocky. What? Because they've got no foresight. Because they're maladapted. They don't learn from their mistakes. They're so self-sure. They're so sure of themselves and blame shifting that any mistakes they make can't be their fault. They're perfect. They're a narcissist. They're perfect. The fault must lie elsewhere. So they make the same mistake over and over again. And from the outsider's point of view, this is buffoonery. It's like, are you that stupid to not learn? And narcissist, no, because the narcissist is that stupid. They do not learn. They do not think that the mistake is theirs that they made. They think the mistake is you're doing. You tricked them in some way. So how can they learn from anything? They don't. So they're not intelligent. They're not infallible. They are not untouchable. They're quite lucky. They're quite fortunate, but even that is a stretch. I mean, a lot of that luck is because of the enabling that other people let them off the hook. That's why. But more insightful, I think, is because you yourself do not like the idea that you were fooled by an idiot. You don't like the idea. So you make them. They must be smart then. They must be masterminds, because that's the only kind of person who can trick me. And this isn't a competition of intelligence. This is about being duped. This is about being able to spot flags and having an awareness. You were none the wiser. It's not your fault. You didn't know. Someone left a thumbtack on your chair, and you sat down and you got a thumbtack in your bum. It's not your fault. I mean, yeah, you'll look again in case someone does it in the future, but a chair is to be sat upon, so you sat down on the chair. You didn't do anything wrong. The person that did wrong was not you. It was the narcissist who put the thumbtack on your chair. So that is tied into our sense of shame, because we don't want to feel embarrassed that we were duped by someone of a low caliber. It makes us feel less than. So that's a little bit of our own narcissism emerging within this. And because of this sort of inflated sense of ego, as it were, we will naturally think, this is what I was saying before about, like, don't let it be personal, because we will naturally think that we were personally selected. We were targeted, chosen, like because of for a personal reason. But it's not the case. It's you just happen to be the person. It could have been anyone who sat on that chair with the drawing pin. The intention was not to catch you per se. The intention was, I've got a drawing pin. I'm going to put it on this drawing pin or thumbtack. I don't know what you call it in your country, like a nail. I'm going to put it on the chair, and I don't care basically who sits on it, but someone's going to sit on it, and it's going to make me giggle. So that's basically the operandi of the narcissist. It's not anything personal, but you, from your point of view, you must, because you don't want to feel slighted, that that you mean this is just happenstance. So your ego says no, no, you were targeted, you were selected. This is personal. They're coming to get you. So we have to be careful how we embellish situations. And this isn't anything to be angry with anyone or to blame. We all kind of do it. It's a natural sort of response. This is an ego defense. This is what would come under ego defense. So to some degree, we need it anyway, because if you didn't think it was you personally, you could have other kind of problems going on. So you need to have some sort of sense of self-worth. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother self-preservation. You'd be dead by now. Other ways a narcissist can get power from you is maybe blackmail. So you shared some secrets with a narcissist, and they say, "Hey, do as I say, otherwise I'm going to blackmail you." Well, yeah, they could. The fallout, it depends how much that blackmail means to you. If so, the blackmailing only has power because of the significance you attach to it. If you don't, let's say you told him something embarrassing, like you wet the bed when you were young, you know, and the narcissist says, "Oh, I'm going to tell everyone that you wet the bed," and you don't care. You're like, "Go ahead, tell them. You can't blackmail me with that." See what I mean? So it all depends on how much attachment you have on this so-called blackmailing, and it also just means that, oops, you made a mistake by divulging too much information to someone that you didn't really know you could trust. So that's a little bit of ownership there, where you have to be accountable for the fallout. If your big secret gets loose on the world, it's not necessarily the narcissist's fault for spreading it. It's your fault because you told you told someone that you should have known better, um, who has a big gob and is going to tell everyone that is untrustworthy. You know, so who's really? And again, you could look at it like who's to blame, really, but that's not really the way you should be looking at it. It's look at it as a lesson learned, right? We all make mistakes. Hopefully, in future, you'll be more careful who you share your secrets with, you know, or whatever it is they're trying to blackmail you with, you know. So you realize, oh, that's an area I need to have better security over, because look at what's happened. It's gotten into the hands of someone who is using it against me, and this idea of using things against you is going to come back as we go on. So essentially, the narcissist is looking for your vulnerabilities. I mean, basically, like if you don't control your mind, if you don't control your body, if you don't control, you know, your thoughts, then guess what? Someone else will, and that's where the hijacking comes in. The narcissist takes over the controls to your life because you are absent. You're not at the control. Someone's got to be driving this car, and it ain't you. So the narcissist jumps in and goes, they're going to drive, you know, yeehaw. Right. So you have elements of your own traits that if you have not calibrated or whatever you neglected will be used against you. So your pride, you don't want to necessarily feel shame. And quite often your pride is a reflection of your shame. So you don't want to feel bad about yourself. So that's a little bit of your own narcissism kicking in, like a healthy kind of form of narcissism. So it makes you a little bit pride, but you've got to keep that kind of ego in check. You don't want to say no because you yourself don't want to be told no. That's a little bit of like a nice guy sentiment, you know. So they're yes men. And they might not even know what they're saying yes to, but they're in support of it because they themselves don't want to have to be denied. Now, you have a need to defend yourself for some reason. But when you realize that there is a strength in vulnerability, and in a lot of cases, you don't need to defend yourself, then you realize that this is a reactive response to a fear of vulnerability. You know, I'm sensitive, right? So I'm scared that somebody is going to poke me. So immediately you get defensive and I'm rock hard and you ain't gonna get past me, you know, F you and F off and everyone else. So you can see how it's compensatory, reactive instead of responding. And quite often it means that the person in their defensiveness will willingly engage the enemy. Like, I'm not even going to let the enemy come near me. I'm so sensitive. Like, you're not even going to come near me. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to attack first. So the victim, the potential target, engages with the narcissist. And with that, there is an element of, because you have to win. This is survival, so you don't want to lose. So it's a little bit of a competitive aspect to there. Your connections could be a source of an angle of attack. It could be a vulnerability in your chink of armor. You know, So, like the kids, for example, and then obviously that makes it a lot more complicated. Another way they get the power from you will be they tempt you with some bait. They love bomb you, they false promises, they future fake, they lure you in, they wear fragrances and makeup, a nice dress or something like that. Suck, you know, and you take the bait, because well, the reason usually it's deriving from your emotional need somewhere in that in you taking the bait is the emotional significance. I mean, let's say they're trying to bribe you because you're broke, you have obligations and you can't pay, so there is a fear that you're going to be homeless, there is a fear that you're not going to be able to eat, and so we can see that might be true, but it might not be true. We don't know necessarily. Are you going to be homeless and starve to death? Maybe you might be put into a shelter and they're going to feed you, so then that statement is not true, but the fear is encouraging you to take the bait. And when you're able to regulate and be mindful of your emotions to self-soothe, you'll be more attentive to such temptations. You'll be more cautious. So the bait, not only is it an emotional need, quite often don't be surprised if you see a desperation as well. They don't want to have to second think and think of reasons why it's a bad idea. They just want to hear, no, this is a good idea. Gambling, good. What do you mean I've just lost the car and the house? Oh, I didn't see that coming. Well, of course not. Why not? Because you deliberately didn't want to think of that happening. Right. So awareness now we're talking about. Right. So your unawareness of your own perception of your value. You think, maybe you might not acknowledge it, I've got low self-esteem. So you don't think you've got any value. And as such, you're not going to be particularly safeguarded. You don't see yourself as something sacred that's worth fighting for. And here you have a narcissist usually idolizing you. So you're like, well, they see something I don't. And it feels good. So this is good. And bing, nope, you're in a trap. You took the bait. But you overlook the whole point is that they see something in you that you don't see. That is a red. That's not really a red. It is a red flag, but I mean, that is actually a kind of compliment in a way. It's like it's acknowledging that despite your self-doubt, there is something unique and strong inside each and every one of you that you should be holding sacred and safeguarding. But because you are blindsided, you cannot see it. So this is why you don't defend it. Now, hopefully, those with low self-esteem will realize that this is not true. There is something there. It might not be, like on display and easily seen. You might have to dig around a little bit. But wherever it's hiding inside your soul, it's the most valued treasure there is. The narcissist is coming to you because of that. They can sniff it. So we know it exists. It is there somewhere. So don't be so hard on yourself or downhearted. Put in the time and effort and work and dig deep. Look for it. Because if you don't find it, the narcissist will. And they'll try and take it from you. And when you do start having that, realization of self-worth, that this is something to protect and not to give away so freely. You will give that gift, as it were, to yourself instead of handing it to someone undeserving. You know, it's like the heart is a very fragile organ, and people are so reckless. Here's my heart. You hold my heart for me. And then, oops, I dropped it. I broke your heart. So we need to be a bit more careful with what we're doing here. Now, what you can do, so when you start having the self-respect, the boundaries, the fortitude, the resilience, etc., you'll be in a position where you could basically say to the narcissist, I have nothing to offer you. You know, not even having a conversation. You are not worth it. I don't even need to address you. Just turn around, walk off. You are, I mean, that is as cold, the cold shoulder as you can get, pretty much. And the narcissist, being desperate for their fuel and supply, will more than likely go elsewhere. You know, you're too strong of a target to go after. The more healthier you become, the more immune you become, because the healthiness about you will trigger. You will become poisonous and toxic to the narcissist. They won't want to hang around you the more healthy you are, because you will kill them. Not you personally, your health will kill them. So it is imperative and important for people to get their mental health straight and to sort it out and get it proper, because that is your ultimate shield in a way. You won't have to worry about defending yourself with self-esteem at that point. It's like, narcissist, dear narcissist, come at me if you dare. Let's see if you will survive, because my immune system is so on par, or whatever, is top notch, or is being attended to, is so healthy, that if you dare come near me, you will die. I don't even need to do anything. My immune system will do it for me. And they'll stay away from you. No problem. You're too dangerous. So you could take that as a little indicator. If you've got narcissists hanging around you, there's an indicator there. They sniff blood. They could sniff an injury. They're honing in on it. That's something for you to address. Don't think that you're healed and miraculous, you know, because if that was the case, they wouldn't be messing with you. So the narcissist points to your injuries. Right, I got a small point here where it's like, you feed the wrong wolf. Yeah, so basically I wrote that in saying, like, instead of feeding your soul, instead of feeding your soul, you're trying to feed the narcissist soul, or you're trying to revive, you're trying to conjure up a soul for the narcissist. But what's really happening is what I call the exchange, the transaction. You give your soul, you give your heart to them, you die so that they can live. And so you are feeding the wrong wolf. You should be, that heart, that soul belongs to you, not them. Stop giving it to them. And then I've got a couple more lines and then I'm done. So how much power? So go back to the question. Right. So how much power? How do you strip a narcissist of their power? Well, how does a 2-year-old have power? That's basically the question. How is it a 2-year-old can have power over you? You're supposed to be the adult here. So how is it a 2-year-old, the narcissist 2-year-old? How do they do it? Well, those who are children could probably understand this easily. You know, the kids nag you until you cave in. They throw a strop or a tantrum, hoping you'll give in. Your decency. You feel you need to explain yourself to children, you know, because you want them to understand somehow. When, nah, not really. It's like, just, you'll figure it out if you, like, clean your room. But why, Dad? Just do it. I don't need to explain myself. Just do it. So you can see, if a kid asks, but please explain to me, They're not cleaning their room now, are they? Because there you are explaining yourself. So, cuteness. The kid will give you puppy eyes or like little pouty lips. So cuteness is a form of manipulation. They know to attack your sympathy because you got a mushy heart. You're a parent, and all right, son, all right, daughter, you win. See what I mean? So how does a narcissist have power over you? They act like a 2-year-old because they are a 2-year-old fundamentally. So and because children appear as innocent, so the narcissist appears as innocent. You don't think the problem is with the narcissist, you think the problem is with you. You're the meanie parent that's denying them what they want. And you feel bad if you start calling your kid, like their cuteness is manipulation. So if you feel bad to say that, oh, your kid's a manipulator, they're abusive. This is child abuse. My child is abusing me. So you would feel bad to call a narcissist, at least in the beginning. So you don't want to think that what you're dealing with is a narcissist. And that's another point is you don't want to think this could happen to you. This happens to other people. This is unheard of. With a narcissist, they don't exist. This is fantasy. What the hell are you talking about? So, but dum, and quite often a lot of people would be like, "This is like I felt like I was in a movie," because it only happens in movies. Well, you're in Alice in Wonderland. And you're coming from a point of view with your decency, your good stature, your morals, and all this sort of etiquette and everything like that. You're a good person, right? So, and you apparently, supposedly, you love and care for your partner or whoever this narcissist is that you've allowed into your life. That's the assertion or the assumption. That's why they're there, because you care or something. So you want to prove this, and so you bend the knee for them. But as we learn that this isn't really what love is about, this is basically a counter manipulation. This is what the nice guy will do, and if not careful, potentially the empath may do. They may be used because of this. Someone who is lucrative and opportunistic and they come across an empath. So this is one for you, RP Pope. They may lean into they may try and guilt you into conformity because they know that you will feel bad. So if they start giving you the crocodile tears, boo hoo hoo, RP Pope, you're so mean to me. All I want is a pony. Well, now you'll likely give them a pony because it hurts you to see them feeling hurt. So be careful there, Pope. And I think that pretty much answers Iridium's question. Whew! Finally. So, Pope, you there? Oh, Kush is here. Ah, Kush. How long you been there lurking? I did. All right. I did say like I'm only gonna let RP Pope on, but we're all schmools. How you doing, Kush? I can't hear you. Can anyone hear Kush? I can see you guys can hear him, but I can't. Why is it I can't hear him? It must. Do I have it muted here? I don't know what I'm doing. Why can't I hear you? Oh wait. Can you guys hear Iridium Kush? Iridium, it says your mic is muted.
Be a problem. That would be.
Ah, there we are.
Where's your problem? That was on my end. So
How are
yes,
you, sir?
I am doing excellent. How are you?
Your question has put me through nearly 3 hours of torture, my friend.
Yeah, I did a stream myself during the whole time you explained. I guess I started a real discussion here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how it happens. It just does. It
Yeah.
just does. But
Yeah.
it's like I'm thinking of I'm gonna have to ban you from asking questions.
Yeah.
No, it would just show
Um,
it's a good question. That's what it proves. It just. I mean, who agrees? Those in the chat. I mean, it's look. Hopefully, we have learned more than one thing today. I mean,
mhm.
that would be a great thing. But I hope it's been helpful. And you know, if not for questions, this is the point, isn't it? But I'm sure we can all agree. Like, if not for questions, I mean, where would we be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually did a stream myself during the time while you were talking, and one of the things I talked about, Billy, was the importance of staying connected internationally. The MGTOW is an international movement, and I really want to stress that to people here in the United States that need to reach out to people like you, people like Unwanted Contriver, um, because they're you guys are good contacts to know in other countries, and need to maintain that network. And I spent some time on that during my stream earlier this evening, because there was a gentleman from Brazil who I spoke with,
Right.
a red pill guy from Brazil who I spoke in Portuguese with, and I dedicated a stream to that, and that's where I was when you guys were talking about the narcissism stuff. But if I had known you were doing this stream, I would have rescheduled it, but I didn't. I try not to cross streams with people.
Yeah, yeah. It gets a bit tricky with the time zones and when is it people's calendars or diaries. Like, if I, for me personally, if I was to pay attention to people's schedules, then I probably wouldn't ever really stream.
Same,
You know, so
exactly,
it's like
same thing.
I feel a bit selfish, but it's kind of like bollocks to it. I'm just gonna stream when I stream. You
Yeah, and
know.
I did that earlier this afternoon here. I had a lot of crap on my mind, and I just decided to say, "F it, I'm doing an impromptu stream," and I ran to the raid for almost an hour. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I puked out 2 streams today. So
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you're enjoying it. It's glad. I mean, it's entertaining. You know, and
I have fun.
insightful, and yeah, it's great. I mean, it's good for the. Everything doesn't have to always be big topics or whatever. Just people live. It's good to see people having lives and people enjoying themselves. It was funny when you were talking about that shop you went to where you were buying those joints and enjoying yourself, and you're talking. You're getting. I was getting giggly from just seeing you being kind of elated.
Oh,
It's infectious.
yeah, I was in rare form that night.
Yeah,
Um,
it was gold, man, and it's a bit in a roundabout sort of way. It's a bit of like an fu to wider society in a way, because I think society would like us to be doom and gloom and depressing and sulking and yeah, and stuck in
exactly.
problems. So to be able to see people actually enjoying their life, living their life, not forgetting they've got a life, um, is is a huge victory. I think we underestimate it. We should cherish moments like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've done several short videos about it. I talked about it some more because it was even more of an adventure when I got back home. Was that I heard you made a comment about that car, and
Oh yes.
it just incredible. And it was exactly as you described. That thing just wants to go balls to the wall like that. And I ran out of gas in that damn thing.
I'm not surprised. How big's the tank? Not big enough.
It's 40 gallons, 160 liters. So yeah, but even so, that's still it goes through that fast. With that has a 350 horsepower engine on it, I think.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, that's literally that's just that's 350 horsepower pulling a tin can.
Yeah.
And that was a standard version. They have the Hellcat version, which is a souped up version of it.
Crazy. I don't. I can't imagine what kind of renter company you're going with, but it's phenomenal. I mean, and great. All power to you, man. I mean, that's fantastic. I could
Hey,
only dream of being there.
somebody's putting crap in your chat. If you don't have moderators here, they're putting.
Oh, yeah.
So if you, I'm not a moderator in your chat, so I can't delete that stuff.
Tim, if you would be so kind, or any of the other mods, please.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
somebody's filling
it's
out
just a
the.
lost soul. It's just a
Yeah.
lost soul wanting some attention. And obviously, it's a bit of a struggle for them, so that's why they're doing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
So if
to
you
your
had
point
any,
about
no, go ahead. Sorry.
oh well, your point about like a community being worldwide and spreading and the importance of it. Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, as I was learning more about you and the many languages you speak, I mean that must help a great deal as well.
Mhm.
I mean, you're like the walking, talking universal translator.
Yeah. And yeah, I replayed that video and I discussed it and discussed what I talked to him about in the stream that I did. So yeah, that was really fun doing that because I hadn't spoken in 2 years. I hadn't spoken Portuguese in 2 years, so that was good practice to do that. And yeah.
What
Um,
do you think about these passport bros then? Because that kind of overlaps with a worldwide community, right?
Yes, I asked him specifically about that in the stream, and I talked about it in this most recent stream. Um, so he mentioned that to me. He said that when you go to these cosmopolitan cities, he's from Sao Paulo, and when you go to these cosmopolitan cities like Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, any of them, all those women there are going to know the deal. They're going to know
Yeah.
the scoop about all that crap. So and especially if they speak any English, they've already figured it out. And all the cabbies down there, they've all figured that shit out. They all know the places where to take you and stuff.
Yeah.
And he said the best chance you'd have because because that feminism has already poisoned those women. He said your best bet is to go out into the country to a small town and find a woman there. Um, and in that case, you're probably going to find one who doesn't speak English because they're going to be out of the big cosmopolitan cities. And particularly in a country like Brazil, you get outside those big cities, you're not going to find people who speak English. Um, so, and that was something he cautioned me about. And I caution about that passport bro stuff too, because I've traveled to Colombia myself on business. And I learned that myself. You go into one of these bars, you order a drink, you go to the bathroom, use the toilet or whatever. You come back, take a sip of that drink, you end up 5 hours in an empty alley with missing your kidneys.
Yeah. It's I find it frightening when I hear them talk about it. I mean, I hear quite often like they seem to have this impression that the Philippines is a safe haven. I'm half Filipino, so I've got family over there, and I'm just like, oh no, no. I went to a strip bar in Baguio. Is it Baguio? It's up in the mountains.
I don't know the Philippines very well, so no.
It's it's just like the Asian, the family kind of the culture. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And they will rip you if not taking a kidney, they'll rip you off in other ways. They'll rob you however they can.
Oh yeah.
And you're not just dealing with one person, but you're dealing with either a network or the family. It's even worse. So there's a story out doing the rounds on one of the men's channels where an American marries a Filipino woman. He builds a house over there, but because in the Philippine law, the owner has to be of Philippine origin. He can't own his own house. So he puts the house in the wife's name, and her family basically move in there. They have children. Um, he's now in a situation where he's broke because they're all begging him for money. And like a bit of a simple, whatever, naive fool, he's just dishing out all this money he's gone over there with. He's got nothing left. He can't even afford the plane ticket back to the States.
Oh my
But
God.
luckily, the community he belongs to paid out for the flight and a bit of accommodation or something like that. So hopefully he's going to get back on his feet. But the thing is, he's got children. So yes, it's just a problematic situation, however you look at it, and it could have all been avoided just because of his silliness, his irresponsible. His just got the better of him or whatever. It just like a dumb schmuck, you
Yeah,
know.
and I've seen that so many times. Guys just waste so much money. I always hear people talk about, you got nice jewelry, you got nice things, and all that, but there's a reason why. I figured out 25 years ago not to get involved in these debt traps, like what the kind of stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is. It's just anytime you're dealing with some of these women like this, it's a debt trap. It's a
I think it's more dangerous with the age because you've got that. But at least in sort of Western culture, it's mainly you're just dealing with one or two sort of crazy um, CBs, as good mother would call them, crazy bitches or whatever. So it's a bit cut and dry. It's a bit in your face and it's somewhat um, you can deal with it. It's superficial. It's quite um, yeah, cut and dry, I suppose is the easiest way of putting it. Um, even despite it not, obviously it's not going to be fair, and it's going to be like pulling out teeth or whatever, and it's going to be pain and ordeal and all that. But with the Asian culture, you've got so much of the family like significance attached to it, and perhaps maybe more um, traditional values that try to keep you locked in. So escape becomes even more difficult to do. Do you know that in China, there's a question they give to, I think they give it to lawyers, and they say if your wife is drowning in the water and your mother is drowning in the water, you can only save one. Which one do you save? If you answer your wife, then you fail the exam. So the assumption is you have to save your mother. So the mother is more important than your wife is.
And what's the rationale behind that?
I'm not sure how they rationalize, maybe because she gave birth to you or something like that. But it's this idea that I suppose that family bonds or family blood is unbreakable. So if you have family, you have to be loyal, even if you don't like them, because you can get penalized if you don't visit your parents or
Hmm.
grandparents or something like that. They can sue you.
What? What?
Yeah, it's like we're not. I'm not sure what the charge is, what it's called, but from what I've heard and gathered is, if the parents will want to see kids, some of these kids don't want to, they want to break away from the family, but they'll be fined if they do it.
Yeah, that's too bad because I had to do this about a year ago. I had to take a hard look at my own family. I quit drinking 2 years ago. I had to because I have health issues associated with that. I had cirrhosis of the liver from excessive drinking, dealing with red pill rage issues. Um, and when I quit drinking, I told my family about it, and they were kind of like, "So what?" And then I began to take a step back a little bit further. I said, let's not look at these people just as family members anymore. Let's just look at these people as people. Let me look at these people just not. Let's strip off the mantra of parents. Let's strip off the mantra of siblings. And if I look at these people for just the people that they are, I came to a conclusion that pretty quick I wanted to sever my ties, and I have. That was not an easy thing to do, but I don't. They had become to the point after, especially after I quit drinking, they had become a toxic part of my life, and I needed to move on from that. That wasn't pleasant to do, but it was. I was tired of being an emotional hostage as well to them, and that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, that's quite common when people are self-improving. They're trying to, particularly if they're looking at the origin story of how on earth did I get in this situation with so and so, this crazy mess. Then you have to do a bit of, when you're doing your self-reflection, you're looking in your family tree as well. Like, how did I come to be like this? And quite often, yeah, I mean, it's a multiple loss happened in my family. Like when I said no to my ex, I had to say no to the whole her side of the family, including the the decent members and including my nieces and nephews. It was just like a blanket kind of like I can't have, because any one of those people are potential. They're like flying monkeys. They could be utilized and be pulled into the abuse if not careful. So to protect them, I had to I had to cut them off as well, leave them in the fantasy in a way. It was the safest option for them. And then I'm looking at my own sort of um, failings or whatever, or things that I could improve, and I realized, oh my, because in my story, as it were, my hero's journey or something like that, if you want to be cheesy, I turned to my brother for help, and I said something by accident to him, and his response indicated to me, it's like, hang on, he's my own goddamn brother, and he only cares about covering his own neck or his skin. He has no consideration. Basically, what I said to him was, bro, like this is going on. I'm my world's been flipped upside down. It's chaos. I'm all over the place. I think I'm dealing with something called narcissism, because at the time I was learning and just discovered it. And I said by accident, it's something like you have some of it as well, like some of these traits, these traits I've been reading about. You have some of it as well. And he flipped out on me when I said that. How dare you call me a narcissist and all this? I'm just like, no, I'm just saying, like, so that you could really like understand what I'm talking about here, like entitlement. Like you're a bit entitled as well. It's like fuck. He's like f you. Like so I basically hung up on him, and then it kind of dawned on me. It's like shit. It's everywhere. My own brother is like that, and then I'm like,
uh,
oh my god, my parents. So I just say, so I lost all family.
yeah, I'm in the same boat because I started experiencing that with my brother about 3 years ago. There was some family inheritance that he and I both had equal rights to, and he took like 3/4 of it and said you could take the quarter of it. I'm like, well, that's not a 50-50 split, buddy. That's not how this works. He's like, well, it doesn't matter whose strong box or safe it's in, if whether it's in mine or yours. I'm like, no, 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 no. That's gaslighting, buddy. You're gaslighting. Um, you're you're taking you're taking all the good stuff for you, and you're leaving all the crap for me. And then my dad immediately jumped and joined sides with him and sided up against me. And I'm just like, I just said, I'm done with all of you guys. I'm done with you clowns. I said, you want to fight for whatever scraps you fight with? I'm self made. I have my own retirement thing. I have my own nest egg, my own investments. Um, I don't need your crap. and I don't want it. And I haven't spoken to them a year since almost, and they still try to. Now that it's the whole thing about the narcissism, and that's why I wanted to ask you about that, Billy, because by stripping them of their power, by not getting in contact with them anymore, they are literally they're on bended knees. They would do anything to have me come and go back and talk to them and acknowledge them, and it's just like, hell no, not
Yeah.
happening. I've made my decisions. I'm going my path, and I'm trudging forward down unknown waters without the emotional hostagery and the baggage of drunken behavior that I've seen too many times in my family at too many family events. People making drunk fools of themselves, and I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the effery, um, and so. But it was really interesting the change I saw the minute I said, go pound sand. They all of a sudden turned like to the nicest friends and people in the world.
Yeah,
So
it's quite an amazing moment of realization as well, and it's something like from our point of view, leading up until that point, um, we tend to think of them like we owe it to them in some way, or
exactly.
like you said, like a hostage, or we're bonded in some way. But when you have that realization, it's like, actually, this is really quite simple. All I got to do is basically tell them to F off, and that's it. Like, there's not much they can really. They could scream, they can holler, they could try and fret, or whatever. But it all relies on whether or not you, as a victim or a target, um, allow it to happen. So there's this sort of empowering epiphany where you're just like, yeah, this isn't as bad as people make, or like
Exactly.
not as people make out, but as I've made out.
Yeah. No, I
So
ran into I had the epiphany you described. It was like the first few days after it happened, they went flip shit. I mean, they were texting me every couple hours, trying to get me to answer it. I just wouldn't answer. I just went full ghost mode on them, and they finally tapered off, and now every once in a while they'll say, hey, how iridium, just wanted to check in, and I just don't return the calls. And I know that I could get anything I want from them now, but I honestly don't want it. And the way
Mm.
I look at it too is what I learned to understand is I don't owe them anything.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned is, and in fact, I did a lot of favors to my brother. He got in all kinds of relationship trouble, messing around with multiple women at the same time. I provided all kinds of emotional support for him. I kept things secret from other girlfriends for him, and he started pulling that kind of effery, and I just said, I'm done. I'm not going to be a pawn in your little games, buddy. Um, and it's just, you go do you, man. And they've gone their way, and I've gone mine. Maybe someday that may change, but the way I look at it is I don't owe them anything. Um, and I'm all the better a person because of it. And the only thing that like worried me was like, would I have anybody to talk to? Would I have anybody to discuss things with? And that was a struggle for me in the first few months of this year, because I had an old colleague at work, but he's so blue pilled. Um, I almost say he's purple pilled, because I think he gets red pill philosophy, but he's married, 2 kids. He has 2 kids in college. God help him. Um, and he just, he wasn't the right person to talk to ultimately at the end, because he couldn't relate to me. And then when I really started stumbling into the red pill and MGTOW community, found that there are lots of other people like you, like JR, Douglas Edwards, just people in the chat, who I'm thinking about, who have been through some of the same shit I've been through. who I can talk to very comfortably about this. I have never been able to talk in front of a group of people like you as comfortably as I have anyone ever. So that's really gratifying to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we all share that. I mean, like, big ups to the chat and everyone watching. That it's kind of I don't know if it's poetical, but it's like the traumas have brought us together. You
Yep.
know, I mean, sometimes people joke about how this is like a therapy session, and in some ways, like talk therapy is very supported and recognized today as being beneficial. So being able to talk and process these emotions and have these interactions, it's more than just banter. It's more than just connecting. I mean, it might sound a bit corny, but for various people at various times, like the comments I receive sometimes, it's like it's either like humbling or healing. You can see some kind of growth and a goodness, enrichment coming in. You know, the sense of, but I get what you also got that kind of flip side where sometimes the enlightenment, so to speak, or the insight can be off-putting to other people. It
Yes.
kind of separates you because they start giving you that kind of side eye. It's like you know me, or you seem to see things that I don't see, and that it's upsetting for them because it makes them feel insecure, out of control. But it's unnecessary. I mean, they shouldn't. We don't mean to do that to people. We're not trying to scare people away,
Exactly. Yep.
but because of the significance and the importance, and this is why we discuss it and share it, because we all I feel like believe this is stuff that everyone should know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've run into these and the narcissism. I had another narcissism test here at work a couple weeks ago. I One of the lead engineers, called us into this, and this guy can just be really full of crap sometimes. Um, he's a good guy, but he could be a good BS artist too. And he called this impromptu meeting, and I had been out traveling for a week for business travel. I'd been, so I was behind on emails. I hadn't read this guy's like 15 emails that he had sent about this damn subject. And he was all upset at me because I hadn't done that. Um, and then I came into the meeting and I immediately hear this guy talking. And I'm like, it's this total BS, dude. And I started questioning him on it, and he gets all pissed off and he goes, well, if you're not going to if you're not going to contribute to this meeting, then you'll leave. And I'm like, fine. I left. I walked out of the meeting. And he has regretted that ever since. I will put it that way, because I have shut off to him, and I will not support him in any way. I will not help him. Anything that is kind of comes in from a customer that's come to him, I just shove it off to him. I don't try to help him in any way. And basically what I like to do is I call it the old pincer hold. I'll just grab your neck until I'll just choke you out, and that's what I did. And he came back on bended knee, um, uh, anteing up in a big hurry. And it's like you said, it's these people I think know that I have additional insight that they don't, and it does make them insecure. Like you said, they'll come into my office, they'll talk to me, because I won't pay them much mind anymore. I won't come to their offices because I can do what I have to do without any guidance. I'm completely self-propelled. I do my job, and I don't need to interact with people that much, really. Um, and that puts them off. That really, they're like, "Oh, you don't need to talk to us anymore." I'm like, "No, and I
Yeah.
don't need to talk to you guys for any reason." And it's like you said, they lose their power. These people lose their power. And basically, when I've said, I'm at the point now where we're so far behind on work, and I'm so experienced and so tenured in the company. You don't like the way I do things? F you, find somebody else who does. You don't like the things I do, who I talk to on the internet? F you, find someone who does. You don't like what I do in my personal life? F you, find someone else who does. And
Yeah.
good luck, because we've been trying to do that for 2 years and have not been successful in doing so. So don't you tell me my business.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, sometimes you don't even need to really. It's even more effective with the least amount of words as well, Be-
exactly.
because what people might not realize what you're doing is what you're signaling to the alleged narcissist or whoever it is that I am so well structured and secure about who I am and what I'm doing. I have control of myself, that it reflects the lack of control they have. So I wouldn't be surprised as soon as you assert yourself. And I think this is one of the trepidations that many people have, because they got the low self-esteem. They don't have the confidence to stand up for themselves. But if you just put on your big boy pants for, just test yourself, stand up for yourself, you'll realize that the mask the other person is wearing is fragile. It will shatter in an instant, and they
Yep.
won't even want to make eye contact with you. They'll be scattering, scrambling around you like cockroaches, because they're so nervous and so self-absorbed. They don't know how they're coming across um, in your presence, that they don't know what to do. But if you engage them and you're having a backwards and forwards tit for tat kind of thing, then they know that you're someone who is you could be compromised in some way. There is an angle there that they can wear down. Like they can corrode your shield, as it were, or they can get you emotionally riled up, and then bingo, you've lost control now.
Yeah.
So it's all about your composure and um, knowing how far you need to exert your strength.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're pulling your punches, and they can tell it. They know, like, shit, if I piss him off, he's gonna go absolutely scorched earth on me. And I mean, this is already a bad situation, So I'm frightened to see the monster in him or something like that. So best play nice.
Yeah, and that's what I think this guy was banking on when I started calling him up and bullshit on his BS, and he started elevating his voice, and my voice started elevated, and then he said, "You need to leave the meeting." I think he was very well expecting me to just kowtow and shut my mouth and sit there and be a good little boy, and I
Yeah,
said, "Fuck you," and left.
yeah.
And
They're
he
looking for
didn't.
that inch, the inch
Yep.
to the mile thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we could apply this to a lot of sort of the ideologies, like the woke culture, and they're trying to like bring in all this sort of gender identity. If people were just more resilient and just said, "No, I don't even need
Yep.
to explain myself. This is BS. This is crazy." I mean, already, I'm saying too much. Just simply, no, this is BS.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. As one of my previous mentors saying, you have the right to say no to something. You don't have to agree with everything. It doesn't matter if a customer asks you to do something outrageous. You, as the vendor, have the right to say no. You have the right to refuse service. You do
Yeah,
have that right. If someone's being a total uh, jerk to you, you have the right to say that. And I've had to do that a few times. It's like, I don't appreciate you talking that way to me. I've been trying to help you out on the phone here for 15 minutes, and you've been telling me I'm full of shit. I'm not full of shit. I know what I'm talking about. Goodbye.
yeah, yeah. And I think the more potent you make that declarative no, the more it resonates in them. It is the death blow in a way. instantaneous. It's just like no. Like my kids always trying to push the line. Like, can we do this? Can we do that? And it's just like no. I can compromise. Maybe be like, look, you want. She might be like, oh, I want McDonald's. Or be like, look, wait until your birthday or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until Christmas. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the key about that too is you're not giving the instantaneous gratification. You make your child look forward to it,
Yeah.
and that makes it an even more rewarding experience. So it's not just taken for granted, as given that was a treat.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
a special. Yeah, as long as you treat it like that. The problem is people don't do that. It's just everybody's a princess. Everybody wants gratification instantaneously.
Well,
Um,
this is where it becomes less about the toxic people and more about yourself in a way. Because why is it a lot of these good people give in so much? They give in to their children's entitlement or whatever society's entitlement, and they placate and they say, oh, okay, all right, we're going to change the law, we're going to allow inclusion everywhere, okay, we're going to bend the knee. And it's like, you guys got no spine. And then you wonder why the world is being flipped upside down. You can't really be that angry with the narcissist anymore. It's you're the one who's enabled the behavior.
you're enabling the behavior exactly,
So
and that
who's worse here? It's the enablers.
yeah, and I think it's some of the people and so many of the people in my generation have failed. They didn't pass along the information that was passed along to me from my elders. And that didn't get properly passed along somehow, or it got mixed in the message. Because when I get on a plane now, when because I travel all the time for business, when I get on a plane now, I see the 2-year-old kids, with the 2-year-old brains, and then I see the 22-year-old adults with the 2-year-old brains.
Mm.
They're the same kids that I saw 20 years ago on that plane. But now they have kids, but they're still mentally basically the same age.
Yeah, basically. But it's even worse though, because at least with a biological 2-year-old, you can kind of understand, like, yeah, they're biologically 2 years old. But to see a 22-year-old acting that way, it's just like, nah, man, come on, the hell. And you expect to continue in life like this? It's not sustainable, even if we wanted to try and you know give way to you all the time. It's just, we can't do it. And I think this is
No,
on a larger scale, this is what society is finding the problem, is that they want to make everybody happy and they want everyone to be equal. And it's like, look, I know it's a nice sentiment or whatever, but this is magical thinking. This is
yeah,
idealization. This is a distorted reality. Ergo, this isn't bloody feasible.
yeah, it's for me, you're going to have a few winners in society, and you're going to have a lot of average people. I'm sure you've probably seen that pyramid with the types of male. You have the alpha, the sigma, the beta, and on down, and the pool gets bigger as you go down. I mean,
Yeah,
the ones that the alphas and the sigmas at the top are the ones who are the go-getters. The majority of people are the ones at the bottom of the pool, and the bottom square.
yeah,
And that's just the way life is. That's the way Mother Nature is. You have the alphas, you have the alpha dogs, and then you have the average ones. It's in the insect world. You have the renegade rogue bees, or you have the worker bees who just go along, do their job. I think we're more like the rogue bees.
yeah. I mean, the problem with the hierarchy of skill sets and types of people, and this probably comes from the lack of the self-esteem, is people want to be, they don't even feel like they're on that kind of ladder, so they wish they could um be better than they currently are. But they overestimate it. And instead of just being satisfied with being somewhere at the bottom or wherever it is they find themselves, they want to be at the very top. They want to be the king. They want to be the master. And it's just like, look, no, there's no shame where every segment, every section of that hierarchy serves a purpose, and
Exactly.
it's not something that anyone should feel ashamed of. It's like quite often when I talk to my kid, I describe it as the captain of the boat. Not everyone can be the captain of the boat. You only need
Hmm.
one captain, but everyone is still needed on that boat to run it.
Hmm.
The captain can't run it on his own. So there's a juxtaposition of, you could say, like, so who's really in power here? And it's like, you're all in power in your own different ways. But as soon as you step out of that, you're no longer filling the role you were designated to fulfill. Now we've got an imbalance.
Yeah.
So don't take any shame that you're below deck and you're having to whatever run the engine room or something. That's a noble position.
Of
You might
course.
not you might not be wearing the captain's hat, but I'm sure the captain still respects you, because the captain should understand that without an engineer in the engine room, the boat is done for. It's not going anywhere. So, but I think this is the problem we're having in society, where everyone wants to be number one, and it's just not feasible. It's just not possible, and
Yeah,
they
and
don't
that's
have the skill set to do it either.
yeah, and I think some people I don't think really know their place. So like in my work, the hierarchy is, the vice president, and then there's me, and I don't really look at him as my boss, and he doesn't look at me that way as a subordinate. We're colleagues who share equal responsibilities. Like he's the captain, I'm the engineer on the boat. Um, just like with a boat, if something happens to the captain gets sick, the engineer can take over and fill his shoes for for a period of time. He has a skill set to be able to do that, and that's where I come in. He ended up getting the coof 2 weeks ago, and I had to take the wheel in his absence, and keep the ship between the navigational beacons and do that. There's no instruction manual on how to do shit like that.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
but you got to take self responsibility to do those things and be willing to do it. And if I don't do it, who else does? There's nobody else who can. There's nobody who has the wisdom and experience in the company who can do that like I
mm,
can. But
yeah,
it's like you said. I don't take out the garbage every week at my house, but I'm damn glad there's someone who does.
yeah.
That's the way I look at it too.
Yeah, and I think what makes it work, like with your example of your employment and like the ship, is that there is a shared goal. We're all on the same team. But in today's society, it's not like that. It's every man, they got that selfishness about them. It's kind of like F the team. It's like, I don't really, well, I only want a team if they're serving me. If presumably I am the leader, I am the captain. But it's like, no, you're not the leader, you're not the captain, and you can't be running your own agenda. Like every single person has their own agenda, and somehow we're meant to call this a society where we're unified. No, it's a contradiction.
Well, the way I look at the look at life and working in teams is there was a scene in the movie. Do you know the movie Untouchables at all?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
It was a movie that Robert De Niro starred as Al Capone during the bootlegging days in the United States, and when there was prohibition in the United States, and he was one of the main gangsters in Chicago, and he gave us this speech before he whacked the dude. Um, but the speech was I've always held true to this speech. He always talks about baseball. He's like, it depends on when you're playing what side. If you're playing in defense, you have to be everybody on the team has to contribute equally to the effort of getting the 3 outs in baseball. Whereas when the team's on offense and they're hitting the ball, that's when the individual can shine. That's when an individual looks good. But even in that case, the individual contributes to being part of the team, even though the individual accomplishes something in their own stats and their own statistics, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're part of the team. There's nothing wrong with individual goals and achievements, but you also have to learn to work within the framework of a team. And I don't think people understand that there's that check and balance.
Yeah. I think on the whole, guys learn more about teamwork and camaraderie than girls. And then when you look at the upbringing, I mean, you can see why. Like the children at school will play the football or the baseball or whatever athletic kind of activities, and the girls are playing with dolls. They're doing more. Well, I don't know about nowadays. I mean, my kid is actually quite good at basketball, so it's all changing. But the problem is that in modern society now is this. So we're looking. So as we're discussing, we're kind of bringing up themes of shared goals, contribution by individuals in part of the team, their function and purpose, and the lack thereof of, well, with a team, with a boat, with a career, there's the shared goal implies there's a direction as well. But nowadays, people don't seem to know what direction they're going in. The only thing that people can agree on is that everything is going down. So it seems like there's a race to the bottom in a kind of perverse inversion kind of way. They're all these the masses want to excel to the pinnacle of their careers without realizing that they're just accelerating their way into the abyss.
Yeah, I think if I understand you, you're saying that people are short-sighted and they're more interested in short-term benefits than long-term gains, and that's what I see in so much of this.
Yeah,
Is
I mean that's like what you're saying with the instant gratification as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like it's all stars and glitters and glamour. They believe and they perceive it as that, being at the top. It's like you're going to be some kind of, well, like a pedestal. You're going to be hailed as some kind of angel of the night or whatever. But like they're short sighted and they don't realize that even if that were possible or was attainable to them, it's very short lived. I mean, yeah, you could be the talking point or sensational for, they call it like the 15-minute of fame or something like that now, and then they spend the rest of their life trying to claw their way back to that position. It's like, give it up, have some more appreciation for just living a life.
Yeah, and try not to achieve something that you can't. And that's what I learned in myself, is that I learned to know and understand myself, and pretty much say F you to what other people think. I mean, within reason, obviously. We all have to do things within the framework of reason, and that's the other thing that this is what I see a little bit of in the red pill community. What I want to see is more kind of discussions like this, where we're talking about substance and stuff. I see a lot of people talk about just like, making fun of women and making fun of blue-haired women and pink-haired women and stuff like that. That's all fine and dandy, and it has its place, but that's not the only thing that we're about. If you just talk about only that kind of thing, if that's only the stuff you're talking about, you're giving the other people the excuse to say that, yeah, these people are just a bunch of trash talkers. And I've learned that that's not the case at all. I've learned tremendous amounts just in the short time I've talking to you and to Good Mother, to other people, experienced people in this community, Bullets for Teeth, for example, um, and that's a lot richer than just the surface stuff that a lot of these guys are promoting. I mean, yeah, that gets you a lot of clicks to your website, like you said. That gets you great popularity, but what do you get out of it?
Well, I do have a couple of sort of articles that addresses that actually. That I've kind of put it on the back burner for a while, but there, from what I can see, there is actually a psychological sort of reasoning behind why certain people may be fixated on women, and or it's not a new behavior. It's like in the narcissistic survivor community, we also see this, where they are obsessed with their narcissist, and they just go on and on and on about the narcissist. They want to make jokes, they want to ridicule, they want to shame the narcissist, they want to tell their stories and all this sort of stuff. So it's the same pattern of behavior, same format, um, but there is reason behind it, and it's a bit of a long one to go into here tonight, but
Hmm.
it's not a healthy thing overall. It shows a stagnation of progression. They
Yes.
people are so frightened, like now loosely speaking, right? So for these individuals, they could be frightened of introspecting. They might not know how to do that. Um, they might be so low self-esteem that it doesn't even occur to them to do that. We have addictive qualities playing into it, because a lot of narcissistic abuse makes their victims become addicts. So if you're going to be healing from such toxicity, you need to have a bit of awareness and understanding of how addiction works. This is like the trauma bond. So like dopamine and all that kind of stuff. So the narcissist is your drug in a way. Or in the case of the manosphere, women are the drug. So
Yeah.
talking about the women continually is a sign of that addiction, that obsessiveness, that compulsive disorder. Um, and I threw in the word disorder there because it's no longer, we're not talking about order here. We're not talking about structure. This is now unhealthy characteristics that are manifesting. So this is why they're talking about women in loose ways. But there is actually an ironic kind of uh, the honest pill, if there is such a thing, um, because when they shame the women in such a way, they inadvertently confess their idolized type of woman. So on the one breath, on the one
Hmm.
hand, they talk about there are no unicorns, but then hang on, if there are no unicorns, why are you talking about women as if there are? And how are they
Exactly.
doing that? It's because you're putting them down so much. You're saying that they're all trash, they're all like this, they're all blue hair, they're all crazy, da 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 da. So your identity, there's I've forgotten what philosopher says it, but the moment you describe something as ugly, you're saying that there must be something beautiful.
Hmm.
So if you're saying that these women are trash and they're the bottom feeders or whatever, you're implying that there must be something good. And what is this thing that is good? Well,
There's
this is
something you
your
see.
idolization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I did do a bit of a video about these chameleon types myself, and the reason I did it, I was reluctant to even do it because so many other people did roasts of some of these women, and it was just in such, some of it was in pretty poor taste in my opinion. Um, but I wanted to do it simply because I saw what and such it was such an obvious grift, and it's what got me going about it. When I see this one woman get 100,000 subscribers, that's all of a sudden, oh, I'm not a red pill anymore. That doesn't suit me anymore. I mean, could you just at least try to conceal your intentions a little bit? Just a little? I mean, my God, could you, I mean, just not lay it out there? I mean, it's like, could you at least wait until the minute somebody clicks 100,000 on the subs before you decide to ditch the red pill? I mean, that was so obvious. It's just like when I see crap like that, I am going to call it out um, for the BS that it is. And that's really why I wanted to do that, because I wanted to call it out for the BS that it was, not necessarily rip on these women, but just call it out for the grift that it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're identifying behavior. In a way, you're sort of depersonalizing it, because like it doesn't really matter if it. I mean, obviously, like the women have an advantage where they get more subscribers and followers and people interested, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. I mean, anyone who behaves in such a way, they're saying they're red pill, and then they turn around and say like, I'm done with this, and they're going to do the, it's the same kind of behaviors, and yeah, that's what you're identifying there. And duly noted. I mean, it's the taking advantage, the exploitation, the utilization. It's also like the coming in bad faith in a way, or making a mockery of something that has more meaning. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't what the red pill is designed to be, but this person has utilized it as a form of in a way that they can capitalize out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
in
yeah,
a sense, they've kind of weaponized it,
yes.
but in a more, but not so much. They've made it more selfish, because they don't care what other, well, not they might not like it if other people were emulating what they're doing, because they want to have the advantage, but they're taking something that was created by other people, using it for their own self gratification, like you're saying before, with the instant gratification, and then milking it for its worth,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially ruining it for anyone else who may follow.
That's what upsets me a great deal, and this, what makes me mad is these people are inexperienced. They have no business, in my opinion, giving counseling or marriage advice. And these people are out there on YouTube selling their grift for $250 an hour, and it's like, what are you even talking about? I'm an experienced engineer, an experienced chemical engineer, and my time on site is worth $200 an hour. And these grifters are charging $250 an hour for their time to do what? To tell you what? What are you getting out of that? How to be in a better relationship? I don't get it. I mean, the thing these young people need to learn to do is to get off their cell phones and start interacting with people. When I first started talking with women in college before cell phones, do you think I got lucky with women the first two times I tried? Of course not. It took 3 or 4 tries before something happened. That's just how it's going to happen. You're going to fail sometimes. And these guys come up to these dating sites with some miracle that these women are going to somehow, they possess some pixie dust that they could sprinkle on their head, and they'll get all the women they want. It's just ridiculous. So much of this crap, and I was on one of these people's live streams, and there are guys dropping $100 super chats. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's because maybe like we're the older sort of generation. Like if we were in their boots, as frightening as it might be, I don't know if we would do the same. I wish not, but you know. But for them, like the thirst is needs to be fulfilled or something. It's the emotional attachment and all this sort of malarkey that is hijacking their better senses. You
Yeah,
know, in
I've
fact,
just
I was having a chat to my kid today about, control your emotions. Don't allow your emotions to control you. We were driving around in the car, and I said it's very much like the car in a way. I love making analogies to vehicles. It's like the engine is telling me we're low on fuel. So like the car is telling me, like, Daddy, we need to get some petrol. And I say to the car, I hear you, but we're not going to get petrol right now. We'll get petrol when I say so. So I'm not ignoring, in this analogy, the car is my child. So I'm not ignoring my car child. I'm saying I hear you, we're low on fuel, but I'm going to make the decision when we're going to get it.
Mhm.
I'm not just going to like pull into any old petrol station right here, right now, just because you've given me a warning light or something.
Yeah, exactly. The only problem is I ran in. It's funny you mentioned that.
Oh
I
yeah,
ran
'cause
into
yeah,
that problem.
yeah,
I ran out of gas in that. So
yeah.
it won the day over me at that in that instance.
Maybe that was a bad analogy, but yeah,
Well, it just I pushed it too far. I'll put it that way.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it just shows that even though you were warned that the engine is getting low, you decided to persevere, and you misjudged it. Doesn't mean you weren't the one being controlled by your emotions. You were the one controlling your emotions. It's just that you made a bad judgment there.
yeah, I made a bad judgment and I didn't get pissed about it, and it only held me up for no more than a half an hour. So I'm just wondering how long I'm going to hear about this in the community.
Yeah.
But I don't mind. Um, but hey, Billy, I got to attend to some chores here a little bit, and what time is it over there? It's what one.
Coming up
It's
to nearly 3 in the morning. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to be shutting it down soon. Yeah, we're nearly hitting the 4-hour mark here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it's actually starting to get late here too. So, but it was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, you too as well. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on. Have
So
a
yeah, if you ever
conversation
want
with us
to
all.
come on one of my streams, you do an interview or something like that, or you want to do vice versa or something like that, feel free to hit me up.
Sure, will do. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank
All
you for
right,
the
thanks. Have a good
invitation.
night.
You too, sir. Have a good night.
Bye.
Well, that was wonderful to have a conversation. Nice sharing philosophies with one another. I hope everyone in the chat is doing excelente. Yeah, so we'll be closing up now. RP Pope says I'm on a cell phone at the moment, so not right now. No problems, no problems. Well, we'll probably have to do it another time. So the invitation is open to you. You're welcome to come on whenever and have a discussion. Even if it's like a free flow kind of chat, you just want to have a little chin wag, that's fine. Or if you've got subject matter in particular, and also like if it's something that you want to have a deep discussion about, feel free to like pose a question or whatever it is, or give me a message or in private, or leave it as in the comments, and then I can like write up some notes on it, or otherwise we could just sort of like shoot it from the hip. I'm pretty flexible and willing however you want to do it. These live streams that I'm doing, generally speaking, is so that we can do these introspection, this self-reflection, so that we can get to the nuts and bolts, not worry so much about what's happening around the world around us, but more about some self-care, because I think that gets overlooked quite a bit. there's enough channels and enough conversation about speculations about what's happening in the world. So obviously, you can always go to those sort of places to see what's happening in whatever communities, etc. But in terms of like being one with ourselves, like I don't want to sound too cheap, like coming to Jesus moments or whatever, like being a bit honest and in touch with ourselves for our own, not just self-improvement, but in a way like therapy, in a way like to make sure we're not more so to make sure we're not neglecting our own self-care, because that's important, especially if you're going to live like a monk life, or you're going solo, or you want to pursue your ambitions. Well, the person who's going to be with you during those adventures is you yourself. So it's good. I think it's important to be in good company with yourself. And so however that plays out in these streams, whether I'm just talking to myself about topics, or whether I'm talking to another like co-host member or someone on the panel or something like that, or people in the chat, obviously be careful with your information and only share what you're willing to share. If we want to skirt around it and sort of, oh, I'm getting a warning that my battery's about to die. My speakers are going. Well, I don't need my speakers, so I can turn that off. All right. So if you want to like third person it, I'm asking for a friend kind of thing, then we can do it that way. So you don't have to necessarily like drop yourself into any of your questions. So just be careful with what kind of information you want to put out, how personal you want to be about it. And the same applies to me. I mean, I've spoken before about my circumstances or whatever, but if it gets to a point where I'm like, nah, I don't think I should, I don't, like I will refrain from answering, or I will find a way of answering it in a different way. So that being said, we're going to close out, and I would like to play some music, but I don't know, the audio just seems to, I'm using Chrome. I thought Chrome would be the solution. It doesn't seem to work. So I don't know how to play some music. So I'm just not going to. So namaste, everyone. Have a good night. Be well to yourselves. And oh, I do have some encouraging words. Hold on. Right. I will end with this. Be proud of yourself. This isn't easy. You've come a long way, and you will continue.